Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Flame, Ash, Time in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 31, A Declaration of War. Goddess, these lights are sweltering. Edelgard dabs her forward with a towel. Studio lights beam down onto a makeshift stage. The stage itself is mostly empty. However, various members of their team, she can no longer keep track of who's a mercenary, a reformed enforcer, or Almiran, keep adding and removing objects like a desk, an eagle flag, a wyvern statue, a globe, and assorted medieval weapons. Said crew also experiments with the position of the lights, while others finish assembling the studio. Yuri, as always, looks smug seated in a cheap director's chair he picked up at the store. "Kman, Edelgard," he hollers, "you aren't speaking to the troops. You're going to be on TV." Dorothea walks past him and climbs onto the stage, handing Edelgard a bottle of water. "You're doing fantastic," she reassures. "Rehearsals usually take a lot of time for everything to get nailed down. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like these ham-fisted warriors know the first thing about lighting or stage direction. How much longer is rehearsal going to take?" Hilda moans from a corner. "Can't you just have that hacker of yours turn on the transmission, give your speech, then be done for the day?" "It's not that simple," Claude interjects. "We have to maximize our optics. And that requires looking good in front of the camera." "I think you look wonderful," Byleth says to Edelgard. "I really like your speech." "At least I have a couple of fans," Edelgard sighs as she takes a swig from her water bottle. Claude shakes his head. "You're doing fine, Torchy. We just have to get everything right. In that vein, I'm going to go check on my suit. Linhard should be done with it by now," she says. "Oh, before you go," Dorothea stops her. "What is our group actually going to be called?" Edelgard rubs her chin. "The whole army will need something simple, yet straightforward. I'm thinking the United Revolutionary Army, since we don't all hail from one location." "Well," Claude squints, "it's a bit bland, but it's a simple and accurate descriptor that'll be easy for the public to remember." Out of curiosity, Yuri interposes to Edelgard, "What's your team's name in all this?" "It's your Merc team that's been building all of this alongside the Golden Deer. I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I have a name that our enemies will know well. Based on old Adrestian symbolism, my faction will be deemed the Black Eagle Strike Force." She raises her fist. Yuri cocks his head but says nothing. Yeah, that works," Claude nods. "Good. I spent all night pondering the name," she confesses. "Now, I have to go check on my suit. You had better be ready with everything when I return." Edelgard exits the Slapdash studio with a triumphant stride. Dorothea winces and scratches her head as she exchanges a look with Yuri and Claude. Yuri chuckles. "How should we convince her to change the name before she drags us all into this?" "That'll be hard," Claude exhales. She seems rather proud of it. Dorothea says, "I admit the name is a bit silly. But should we say anything at all?" "No," Byleth's tone is firm. "The fact that it's silly is what makes it perfect. If we want to be heroes in the eyes of the public, a moniker like that will help. Something simple yet innocent, in its own way, will appeal to legends and stories of old. To tales of heroes and weapons with silly names. If we want the people to have hope in Edelgard, they can't be afraid of her." "Is the suit ready?" Edelgard asks. She, Linhard, and Monica gather around the green-haired mechanic's new, and now much larger, workstation while revolutionaries bustle around them. "Just about," Linhard answers. "The only thing left is for you to try it out." "Excellent. Again, I can't thank you enough, Linhard." She rests a hand on his shoulder. "I suppose it was fun to assemble. Though, I have to say that this armor is ostentatious, even for you. Red and gold? Feathers? Plus, that crown is a bit much. I think it looks astounding," Monica declares. "I want people to look at that suit and see someone capable of being their future ruler. They need to see me as someone in charge," Edelgard explains. "Speaking of which," she turns to Monica, "I need you to fetch Mercedes. She's going to do my hair." "Right," the redhead nods before excitedly pacing off. Petra leans over Bernadetta. "You are being certain that the transmission is secure?" Absolutely, Bernadetta scrolls over a complex menu on her computer. I've been triple checking every day for the last 2 days. The Empire won't be able to trace the source back to Fodlan's locket. Instead, I'll be routing them to our base in the subway. Awesome! Casper shouts. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but good job, Bernie. Bernadetta sweats and blushes. Oh, you're just saying that because you're afraid you'll undermine my confidence, and then everything will go wrong. No. I actually... Well, if everything does go wrong, I have dibs on the professor protecting me. Bernadetta defends. Please, Bernadetta, Petra cuts in, be calming yourself. As you say, having panic will not be helping any of us. Are you done with the set yet? Nader roars. Just finished, a revolutionary shouts back from a rafter. By the gods, it's about damn time. All this prep crap is boring. Relax, Nader, Claude rubs his forehead. It's almost time for the speech. You'll get your war soon enough. Now remember, Judith says, just let Edelgard do the talking. Don't go off script, don't ad-lib any weird crap. Just stand there looking pretty. Says you. Nader barks. You're not the one whose country was conquered. It's okay, big guy, Gerald soothes while walking up. You'll get your chance to stick it to him soon enough. Today is for all of us. Leonie pumps her fist. Geez, I'm so excited. I mean, I still think this could be a terrible idea, but everyone's enthusiasm is contagious. That reminds me, Gerald asks, where's Alois? He's normally right by my side for this sort of thing. They hear a loud thud and some hooting. Off in another corner of the large studio, Holst's hand slams Balthus into a table while Alois, Raphael, and Casper cheer. Me next. Raphael shouts as he takes Balthus' seat. So childish, Lysithea chides from another table a few yards off. Dorothea, Marianne, Ignatz, Lawrence, and Byleth sit with her. I admit, Lawrence chuckles, as barbaric as it is, there's a certain charm to their confidence right now. I find it most reassuring, all things considered. Well, Dorothea sighs, it looks like someone else could still use some reassurance. She looks at Byleth, who's hunched in her seat wearing a hood. It's not like you to make yourself so invisible, especially not on Edie's big day. Is everything all right? Byleth's back is turned directly towards Geralt, and she huddles even further forward. It's fine. I'm excited that Edelgard is finally able to fight the Empire properly. I just don't do well with large crowds. Ah, I see, Dorothea smirks. No wonder you and Bernie get along. And who might you be again? Lawrence asks Byleth. I'm a professor at the University of Adrestian Heritage. Or was. I'm Edelgard's source of info on the Empire's history, Byleth explains. Oh, right, Lawrence nods. I vaguely remember your disappearance from the news. I suppose it makes sense that you were recruited by Miss Hresvelg. Dorothea sighs at Byleth, you're a bit more than Edelgard's source. Are you ever going to tell people about the other thing? Lysithea looks at Byleth, what other thing? That's not important right now, Byleth shakes her head. Today is a day of hope. Not fear. Wait, what do we have to be afraid of? Ignatz asks with wide eyes. Is something wrong? The songstress interrupts, no, it's nothing like that. The professor's just being melodramatic is all. A set of double doors at the entrance to the studio swings open, silencing the room. Mercedes stands off-center of Edelgard, who marches in a few feet in front. She wears slim gold power armor with red and black accents. While the suit's artificial muscles and gauntlets are mostly plated gold, the fingers bear crimson armor which matches the color of her form-fitting gown that peeks out from under her gold breastplate. Black tassels and feathers protrude from her thick gold shoulder plates. She dons a long scarlet cape which trails behind her with a double-headed eagle insignia on the back. In her hands, she wields a gold and silver medieval battle axe. Though, as complex as her armor is, most everyone's eyes are immediately drawn to her head. Her snowy hair is tied into side buns, with only 2 wavy strands of hair left free to drape over her shoulders. The buns are held in place by a large horned crown which shimmers under the studio light. As she walks forward, each metal step resounds through the now quiet room. Nader, Geralt. It's time, she asserts. The trio walk onto the stage. Behind them drapes a massive crimson tarp with the eagle of Adrestia stitched in black. Nader and Geralt stand at both of her sides while some crew members position a camera in front of them. Edelgard points to Bernadetta, Linhard, and a few other crew members situated behind a soundboard and some computer monitors. Begin the broadcast, she commands. They fiddle with some settings for a few seconds, then one of them gives a thumbs up. People of Fodlan. Edelgard begins. This is a call to action to revolution. For more than 1,000 years, the Empire has reigned the world from our heartland. And from the throne rules Nemesis, our so-called God-Emperor. However, for all his power, he is not the true ruler of this world. No, Fodlan's true foe, indeed the foe of all humanity, is a group who've consolidated power since prehistory. The Agarthans. For ages, they've controlled our lives from the shadows, concocting slavery, genocides, false religions, and global conquest. All your freedoms, all your rights, have been crushed underfoot by this cult. And Nemesis is their primary weapon. Many of you have heard countless rumors of their ruthlessness and corruption. The tragedy of Duskur, orchestrated by Governor Cornelia Arnhem. The insurrection of the Seven, orchestrated by Governor Ludwig von Aegir. The destruction of the Almiron and Brigid royal families, dealt personally by the hands of Nemesis. Alongside them, countless politicians and corporations stand loyal for the sake of status and money, all complacent in schemes of mass murder, human experimentation, displacement, and genocide. And let us not forget the endless stories of enforcer brutality you hear from the streets every day. I know these things because I was a victim of them. But I am their victim no longer. And neither are you. I stand before you as what they created me to be, the flames that shall burn even the gods. I shall pry their empire from their dead hands and transform it into an empire that serves the people. This is why I take the name, Flame Emperor. Before now, I kept my identity hidden and masqueraded as Edelgard Eisner. Geralt glances at her upon hearing the name. But my true identity is Edelgard von Hresvelg. I am the sole survivor of the insurrection of the Seven and the experiments performed by this world's corrupt rulers, and it is because of that pain that I pledge to transform this world. On the graves of all my siblings, whom I watched die one by one, innocent children tortured and slaughtered in the name of science, I swear to undo the very foundations of the Agarthans' rule. And I am not alone in these endeavors. As you can see, Geralt of the Blade Breakers stands to my left, and Nader of the Almiron Royal Army stands to my right. Many forces from both continents have woven together, forming our united revolutionary army. Every day, more and more people join our cause. My own personal legion, the Black Eagle Strike Force, countless former Imperial legions, mercenary troops the size of small armies, anonymous leaders seeking a new world, and even the demons you've been taught to fear all have entered our fight. For those of you who wish to join us, simply reach out your hand, and our people will find you. Freedom comes at a high price, but it is one we will pay, like it or not. To Nemesis. I promise you this, we are coming for you. We will reforge your world in fire so fierce, even the sun will dim in comparison. So vows I, Edelgard von Hresvelg the Flame Emperor. The broadcast cuts out. Ferdinand von Aegir sits in a room decorated with paintings, fine antique furniture, and a fireplace. The curtains are drawn, darkening the chamber while he sits alone. He stares at the static on the television for a second longer before turning it off. His face sinks into his hands, and he releases a deep sigh. A minute passes, and the door to his study swings open. Hubert dashes in, breath ragged. Ferdinand, he shouts. Did you see the broadcast just now? Of course I did, Ferdinand retorts. He runs his hands through long orange hair, casting a look upon the ground. Could those things that woman said be true? Could she be a Hresvelg? Hubert straightens out, desperately trying to compose himself. It's true. I recognized her from childhood. Her face, her inflection, it's all the same. But how could one of them survive? Ferdinand shakes his head. Father told me they all died due to treason. Her hair color matches that of the victims of the Agarthans' Crest experiments, Hubert explains. It's standard procedure to dispose of the bodies in a distant landfill upon termination, lest they transform into a demonic beast. It's possible she was not truly dead and made her way out somehow. But if what she said is true, then we have failed in our duties. Hubert's face contorts. Ferdinand takes Hubert's hand. I know that my father is capable of dark things, but could he truly have lied about what happened to the Hresvelgs? Is she right? Could he have truly staged a massacre for the sake of power? Of course he has. Hubert scoffs. You've seen the evidence firsthand. Did you know about this? About Lady Edelgard surviving? No, Hubert sighs. But I did know about the experiments. And you kept that from me? Ferdinand glares. Hubert. I don't even know what to say. How could you hide something like that? To protect you, naturally. Ludwig and the Empire are full of darkness. For the sake of maintaining peace, one must go along with their plans. I kept that from you so you wouldn't have to mar your soul. But now that Lady Edelgard has returned, things are different. Ferdinand rubs his forehead. What are we supposed to do now? Before Hubert can answer, the door once again opens. The rotund form of Ludwig von Aegir waddles in. Dim light shines off his cranium as he attempts to twirl his thin mustache. Ferdinand, the governor barks. I need to borrow that mangy dog you call a fiancé. Have care how you speak to him. Ferdinand hisses. Your threats, and your disgusting choice in lovers, he spits the last word, mean nothing to me, boy. Hubert steps forward. What do you want, sir? Blasted idiot. Did you not see the television? Ludwig's jowls shake. Those terrorists have teamed up with those filthy apes from the east. They mean to declare war within our borders. It is your responsibility to crush them. If Lord Nemesis and Lord Thales have to lift a finger, that will sully our household name. And yours. We must remind the public of the Empire's might through an effortless victory. Ferdinand sneers. You do not sound as though you think it will be effortless. Quiet, boy. You know nothing of war. Or responsibility, for that matter. You'd be surprised at what I know, father. Enough of this, Hubert interrupts. I will deal with the situation. I promise you, Sir Aegir, when the bloody dust settles, the people will remember who their true ruler is. Ludwig tuts, you had better keep that promise. Chapter 32, The Shot Heard Round the World. The Inbare Palace throne room is a wide, nigh vacant space. Silver plating with the barest tint of green covers the barren floor, soulless walls, and gargantuan pillars which support the massive arching ceiling. The entirety of the space extends over 4 stories high, with no windows in sight. Only dim halogen bulbs light the room. The sole section of the chamber that isn't completely desolate is the throne itself. This seat of total imperial authority is currently transformed into a broad metallic table. Nemesis lays atop this table with a breathing apparatus hooked into his mouth and throat. His limbs splay out as a complicated series of pipes protrude from his chest and stomach, connecting to various containers filled with an assortment of artificial fluids. Several Agarthans in dark, baggy biohazard suits delicately pump the fluids in and out of the different plugs in Nemesis' massive body. 2 of them remove a few steaming computer chips as well as internal pumps which are partially dissolved, replacing them with new ones. His exposed artificial purplish lungs rise and fall with each deep breath he takes. 1 Agarthan peeks under the left lung to check an iron pump that links to a series of veins and arteries, over half of which are now tubes. Thales approaches with noiseless footsteps. A dark cloak mutely flows behind his tall figure. His pale face distorts into a grimace, though his blank, sunken eyes remain unreadable. Nemesis, his voice rasps. The God Emperor strains himself to look at the Dark Mage. What, he breathes, do you want, worm? Careful with your tone, Thales calmly warns. Did you not see the broadcast? We have a gathering of rats with delusions of grandeur. I know, the king shouts, raising his fist and slamming into the table. Do you think I'm doing this filthy maintenance again, for nothing? How curious. It is unlike you to take the proper precautions, Thales mocks. Were you also able to take the meaning of the wench's words? Her reference to demons. Do not, belittle me. I am aware of the threat. He grabs one of the Agarthans by the collar. How much longer is, he coughs and wheezes. Spittle sprays into his breathing apparatus, this going to take. And not long at all, sire, the Agarthan squeals. Thales scoffs at the scientist, remember to whom you answer. That thug is nothing. The Dark Mage impatiently waits as his scientists finish replacing Nemesis' internal life support equipment. At one point near the end, a nervous doctor slightly punctures a pipe with a sharp tool. Steam and a murky liquid spew out hissing. Nemesis sits up with a bark and grabs the Agarthan, lifting them off the floor. They rasp as Nemesis crushes their neck, their body drops as blood seeps through the now crinkled nape of their suit. It's a wonder the public was ever afraid of you in the first place, dog, Thales taunts as Nemesis catches his breath. The king removes his breathing apparatus and waves the other Agarthans away, 2 of whom drag off the body of their cohort. The rest haul away the complicated equipment. Is there a point to this? Nemesis growls. Weren't you listening? That woman referenced the aid of a demon. If she's serious about having the Ashen Demon in her pocket, then her band of otherwise useless misfits are a legitimate threat. It's not out of the question, the Fell Star always did fawn over humans. She's serious, Nemesis huffs. I saw her and the demon in a vision from the other world. All the more reason to be concerned, Thales chides. You haven't had a vision of another timeline since your war with the beasts. Perhaps this sight is fueled by your proximity to its bloodline. Nemesis stands. His near 7-foot frame dwarfs even Thales as the table converts back to his throne. The back of the seat slides open to reveal the sword of the Creator, which he grasps dramatically. Whatever brought the Fell Star back is incomplete, Nemesis defends. It merely caught me off guard in our last encounter as I did not know what it was. I will crush it next time. No. You won't, Thales bluntly states. Do not forget you, too, are an incomplete shadow of your former self. What's more, your power is also derived from the Fell Star. If you face it again, it will kill you. Then what do you suggest? Nemesis snaps. This Ashen Demon will only challenge us with the aid of its precious humans. You should only worry about crushing the girl. Their forces will descend into chaos without their head, dispersing into the shadows. In the absolute worst scenario, they will throw themselves recklessly, religiously, at our empire and die. Nemesis laughs, and what if the Fell Star decides to destroy us out of vengeance? I have means of dealing with it beyond you, Thales taunts. By itself, it will be easier to destroy. Bah! Nemesis snarls. Don't tell me, that mad brute you keep in the dungeons? That boy may as well be a demonic beast. There are other weapons. But if it comes to that, then yes. Never forget, God Emperor, Thales sneers, we can replace more than your broken parts. Even the best tools eventually wear down and have to be exchanged for something superior. Ingrid's motel room brandishes a tacky orange paint job which gleams with the setting sun. The beige carpet holds a bizarre pink stain, and the all-white bed is stiff. She stares blankly at a soap opera on a cheap TV set, considering her options. She could find a menial job. Or she could crawl back to her father. Certainly not that. Perhaps she could move out of Fodlan instead? Dada is supposed to be a large, diverse country. Her doorbell starts to ring but sputters out halfway through. Who is it? She asks. It's me, Sylvain's muffled voice cheerfully calls. She rubs her face and mouths the word shit. Yeah, just 1 second, she calls. Ingrid stands and paces to the door, forcing on a smile before opening up. Hello, Sylvain. That's it? Hello, he smirks. What do you want me to say, Sylvain? She sighs. Whatever you need to be perfectly honest. Because, frankly, you look terrible. Geez, Ingrid glares, thank you for your support in this trying time. Of course, he nods. But seriously, we need to talk about what happened. More accurately, it sounds like you need to sort through some things with another real person. Look, Sylvain, she shakes her head, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I put you in that position. I'm sorry I made an idiot of myself. Sylvain smiles, you didn't make an idiot of yourself. Besides, I'm at least as much of an idiot since I was there, too. How can you be so damn cheery after that? We ruined our relationship with Glenn. I guess I have plenty of experience with this sort of drama. I'm used to the fallout. Also, I have to be blunt, I never actually liked Glenn. I mean, he was nice when he wasn't being hyper passive-aggressive. But he could be really mean to both you and Felix in his weird backhanded way. Oh, thanks, Sylvain. Telling me that you always hated my husband makes me feel so much better, she rubs her temples. Sorry. I just don't want you thinking you made a mistake by walking out on him, he nods. No. Goddess, no. I don't know what I need, she sits back on the bed. Sylvain closes the door as he walks in, you need to interact with another human being for one. Step 2 is venting. You're angry and confused, so you need to spill. Don't tell me how I do or don't feel, she scolds, just because you happen to be right about what I'm feeling. Whatever it is you need to say to me, I'm all ears, he grins. Ingrid pauses and rubs at her eye, what are we, Sylvain? After that. Whatever we need to be. It's a complicated situation. Just sit on it for a while and figure out what you want. If you need me to be a friend, then I'm a friend. Ingrid chuckles and sniffles at the same time, you can't be the same Sylvain I went to uni with. He'd be hiding somewhere, sleeping with another girl, until the dust settled. Who knows, he smirks. Maybe I'm an alien plant person who killed and replaced him, like in that one movie. Well, maybe, plant alien Sylvain can help me figure out what to do with my life now, she hunches forward. Holy fuck, isn't that Edelgard? Sylvain interrupts and turns up the TV. Yes, it is, Ingrid furrows her brow. What's she? Her voice trails off as they listen to Edelgard's televised declaration. They stare transfixed for the few moments that the Flame Emperor speaks. Then the signal cuts out, and they sit in silence for another 8 seconds. Sylvain gapes, Edelgard's declaring war, huh? That's cold, even for her. Those things she said. She's really a Hresvelg. Ingrid stands up and paces. All those years we knew each other, and she never told me. But then again, why would she? Her family, the government, they destroyed her life. I guess that explains her harsh demeanor, Sylvain quips. Sorry, he grunts when Ingrid glowers at him. She continues, I knew the Empire was bad, but the accusations she's alleging are right in line with what they've done to Duskur. What they've almost done to Sreng on multiple occasions, if it weren't for them falling in line, Sylvain huffs. Maybe, there's a grain of truth to what she said. What do you mean? Ingrid looks at him cautiously. People like Cornelia and my brother have been taking advantage of their power for years. They wrecked both our families, he explains. Who knows how deep that really goes? If Edelgard knew, she had to keep it secret her whole life, or they'd come after her. Even her real name is dangerous. Goddess, Sylvain, please tell me you aren't seriously considering open treason. Ingrid, what if our lives were meant for more than just being an aimless philanderer and a puppet for status? His gaze burrows into her. What if I actually stood for something for once in my damn life? Sylvain, please, this talk is extremely dangerous, she pleads. Yeah, I know. But I'm kinda sick of all the corruption I've seen in recent years. What if this really is our one shot to sweep it all away? Ingrid sits back down. She falls silent for a moment before answering, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be loyal to anymore. At every turn, what I thought I knew about the world changes. It's like a rug that gets pulled out from under me over and over. Can people like us really change all that? Can we really make a world where little girls don't have to be sold or killed so that others can get power? It's worth fighting for, at least, isn't it? Sylvain affirms. But we'd be going up against a power that's ruled nearly the whole world for more than 1,000 years. You were in the military. You absolutely heard sentiments about sacrifice and whatnot, right? He prods. Ingrid sighs, of course, but it's a lot easier to digest when you have the recognized power on your side. This is riskier. Much, much riskier, he chuckles. But I don't really have a lot to lose in the first place. Sylvain, please don't talk like that. You matter to me. Then I guess you'll have to protect me when I join. That is, if you want to. He raises an eyebrow. Goddess, you're so hopeless without me. Fine, she exhales deeply. Fine. We'll do it. I was the one who asked what I needed to do with myself, anyway. I suppose this is another way the universe enjoys tormenting me. Don't look at it like that, he grins. It's more like, the universe is finally pointing you in the direction of your true purpose. Now we can stick it to the man. Ever the optimist, she smiles. I imagine now we have to figure out how to actually join. This area seems a bit shady, Ingrid hesitates. They line up in front of a warehouse. A large digital clock on the other side of the street reads, 2:33 a.m. A sizable crowd of people line up with them. They come in various ages and sizes: retirees, street rats, a middle-aged couple, budding mercs, and even two people Ingrid recognizes as retired Imperial enforcers. This is where the guy told us to go. Sylvain scans around the crowd. It seems like we're in the right place. Just then, everyone's phones begin buzzing and blaring with an awful mandatory notice. They look at their devices and see Nemesis commanding scowl. A few monitors dappled across the street match the image. The God Emperor bears a dark minx cape, adorned with the crest of flames. His waist and legs are covered in leather and iron armor. Spiked tassels hang from his massive belt. Armored barbs jut out of his heavy shoulder pads, though the pad on his left is significantly larger, and its spikes curl as though they're horns. Similarly, points protrude from the armor on his forearms and shins. His chest is bare, revealing a series of enormous scars and blinking metal plates grafted to his skin. The Creator Sword surges with electric red-orange energy as he grasps it tightly. Subjects of my Fodlan Empire, his voice resounds as his inhuman black and red eyes burn into the public image. Earlier today a rat found their way onto TV and started squealing. Normally, the threats of terrorists means nothing to me. I have broken gods, anarchists are nothing more than a waste of my time. However, these particular bugs seem to hold some sway over you. Now, I know short-lived creatures such as yourselves have difficulty comprehending certain truths. So, allow me to make some things clear. These worms are an eclectic assortment of apes, children, and soulless mercenaries. They are incapable of taking care of you the way my empire has. The apes are too stupid and violent. The children are too naive and delusional. And the mercenaries only care about the money. Like every other army who has opposed the truth and peace we bring, they, too, shall fall before my immortal might. I take this opportunity to remind those of you foolishly considering their words. You will die if you challenge my authority. You will be lucky to die quickly in battle. The rest will agonize until my loyal keepers of justice finally grant you the mercy of death. I do not command these things out of hate, but because they are what's best for you. We keep the peace. They induce war. There is nothing to consider in their offer. Lastly, to the child calling herself the Flame Emperor or the last Hresvelg or some such nonsense. A swell of orange energy flares through his sword. It doesn't matter what you think you are. You are an ignorant child and a narcissistic upstart who genuinely believes she has my world figured out. You imagine yourself to be the only one capable of saving the people of this world. That you know what's best for my subjects? Only the established power knows what's best, a lone, arrogant girl does not. Then again, delusions of grandeur run in your family, do they not? You can rejoice in one thing, you will see your family's disappointment in you when you meet them in hell. In the meantime, I'll keep your head on a pike at the front gates of Inber. Perhaps I'll keep your skinned body on another. The broadcast terminates, leaving the crest of flames, the symbol associated with Nemesis Global Empire, as the only thing visible to the public. Quiet befalls the crowd. Some of them meekly shuffle away from the line. Yet, others stand taller. Ingrid clenches her fist, and that seals it. We're doing this. I can't believe we've been letting disgusting people like that control us for our whole lives. We'll see whose head ends up on a pike. It's nice to see you so fired up again, Sylvain winks. But first, we actually have to win. If nothing else, I'll bet Edelgard could use some friendly faces after a message like that. Of course, she nods vigorously, Aegir, Arnim, Nemesis, and anyone else. I'm going to help Edelgard take all of them down. Those people can't be allowed to do what they want with us anymore. And what about Glenn? Sylvain asks. Ingrid takes a breath. We can't keep excusing people who support monsters like Nemesis or Cornelia. If he won't see reason, then we'll stop him, too. It's our duty to the people of this world. Chapter 33, Feeding the Dogs of War. Byleth pours Edelgard a cup of bergamot, then sits in the chair opposite Edelgard's new desk. Her personal office is already covered in books, maps, and logistical paperwork. How are you feeling? The Blunet asks. Nervous but, admittedly, invigorated, Edelgard smiles. I'm eager to finally take some serious strides, now that we're in the position to legitimately take the fight to the Empire. You aren't shaken at all? Not after Nemesis' message. Byleth's brow furrows. Not particularly, Edelgard shakes her head. I was under no illusions about how our enemies would react. Some people are quite sick and violent. Therefore, you should expect them to wish sick and violent things upon us. I know, but, Byleth casts her expression down. What has you so worried? Edelgard asks. We both know you can beat him. Nothing. It's just that his strong reaction reminded me of another man from that other world. Someone who said some descriptive, sadistic things about you and your people which still haunt me. This seems like it really bothers you. Do you mind telling me who it was? Edelgard's gaze, though soft, burrows into her. Byleth glances at her then sighs, no one who's a threat in this world. He's been gone a long time here. The reminder that people like that still exist just makes me uncomfortable, is all. Edelgard opens her mouth to soothe the professor, but a knock at her door interrupts her. We can finish discussing this later, she assures Byleth. She stands and walks to the door. When she opens it, she's greeted by Lysithea's nervous expression. Lysithea, Edelgard addresses the mage, what's wrong? Nothing serious, she shakes her head. I was just hoping to talk to you now that things have slowed down a bit. How fortunate, I wished to speak with you as well when I had the chance, Edelgard nods. Byleth stands and grins at Lysithea, it doesn't take a genius to determine what you want to discuss with Elle. I'll leave you to be. On her way out, Edelgard takes her hand briefly, I know we have a lot going on, but we will finish our discussion. I can tell something else is bothering you, and I mean to get to the bottom of it. Byleth faintly smiles at Edelgard before she turns and walks out the door. I am sorry for interrupting, Lysithea blushes. I didn't know you two were. Please, Lysithea, Edelgard gestures for her to take a seat, don't worry about it. I can tell you have a lot on your mind, as well. I just want to know how you do it, the mage pleads. Do what? How can you be so confident after you know what? Lysithea looks down. You seem plenty confident to me, Lysithea, Edelgard notes. Do you think so? Most people treat me like a child. Even Marianne. Don't get me wrong, she tries to be cognizant of my feelings, but she treats me like I'm made of glass. And why is that? Edelgard asks. My health problems. The side effects of having two crests, I'm afraid. My life expectancy is about 3 to 5 years from now, the mage sighs. Lysithea. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I knew the experiments were strenuous, but that's... Didn't the mages who experimented on you give you an estimated date? Lysithea looks up. No. They simply dumped us because we were dead or dying. Even so, Mercedes has found nothing wrong with my life expectancy. Perhaps that's because I only have one crest, among physical modifications to my genetic code. So you don't have to worry about dying, then. Lysithea turns away. Sorry, that came out a bit pettier than I intended. Lysithea, whatever it takes to help you, we'll figure it out, Edelgard grasps her hand. How can you be so confident in that? The mage probes. Byleth is an expert on crests. She knows about our situation. I think she might know a way to help you. Plus, Mercedes is the best doctor there is. Between the two of them, I have no doubts that they can come up with a solution. I see, Lysithea ponders. That's a relief to hear. The two sit in an awkward quiet for a minute longer. Edelgard. Lysithea begins. Yes. What were they trying to do with us? The mage asks, tears pricking at her eyes. They wanted to turn us into weapons. Ostensibly, but they destroyed nearly my entire household. Our maids and butlers, then my siblings. The only ones they didn't experiment on were my parents. I watched almost everyone I loved die. Her voice breaks. I was the only survivor. I was the only one who had two crests. But when it was done, they just left. Why? Tears stream down her cheeks, and she swallows a sob. Why would they put me through all that just to leave? They didn't use me as a weapon, and they didn't use you as a weapon. Did they just want to torment us? To remind us of our place? Edelgard pulls the mage into an embrace. I don't have an answer to that. Lysithea sobs against Edelgard's chest for a few moments. I don't understand why they had to kill us. Why do I have to die? You won't die, Lysithea. I swear it. I'll turn the world over to ensure that you can get some semblance of your life back. And I know that Byleth feels the same. Don't underestimate what we're capable of. I'll hold you to that, she sniffles, wiping her nose with a nearby tissue. You know, Edelgard smiles, a little birdie told me you like sweets. What do you say we stop by the cafeteria and see if we can't sample some dessert early? You don't have to baby me, Lysithea pouts. But fine. Since you insist, it would be rude of me to turn you down. Now that we've officially painted a big, flashing target on our backs, Claude begins. What's our first aim in this war? The War Council centers around a large U-shaped conference table. A hollow map image of Fodlan projects onto a board facing the group. I have a target on my back, Edelgard retorts. You're still anonymous. I meant the royal we, Claude smirks. Anyway, Edelgard continues, Yuri has isolated the location of another relic. Something that translates to, Brand of Thunder. Oh, a relic. Nice. Holst shouts, we could use another one of those. The only working one we have is Free Kugel. What? Geralt asks. It's an axe, Holst explains. My family has kept it a sworn secret for generations. Think of it like our top secret weapon. And we're only just finding out about this now. Edelgard curls her brow. That doesn't matter right now, Claude interrupts. Relics are only as good as the right people wielding them. What we really need is ground. He turns to Gwendol. The old general nods, that's right, Prince Khalid. We must take Count Ro's territory. Believe me when I say that the man is a coward through and through. If we press him with an invasion, it shouldn't take long until he buckles to save his own skin. Then, we can make use of his land, capital, weapons, and remaining enforcers, at least the ones willing to defect to save themselves. I'm with the old guy. Nader shouts. I'd rather conquer than steal. Amirans are warriors, not thieves. So you keep reminding us, Judith Riley mocks. Besides, you're hardly a spring chicken yourself. The big guy has a point, Geralt adds, in his own way. It'll make a bigger statement for our first battle if we seize land. And this Ro guy sounds like an easy start. It's a great way for everyone to get used to fighting as an army. Ha! I knew I liked you. Nader dramatically points. I'd agree that it would be an easy invasion, Edelgard pinches her brow, if Ro was located near Fodlan's Locket, but it borders Adrestia and Faerghus. How do you propose we move an invasion force undetected? Lady Edelgard, if I may, Gwendol stands and gives a shallow bow, I can pull some strings within the Empire and transfer reinforcements into the region. Won't that alert them to danger? Edelgard asks. The general nods, it will, but when their own troops attack from the inside, all the alertness in the world won't save them. Besides, Ro's men are, quite frankly, incompetent without my direction. Very well, Edelgard assents. Contact Count Ro. Let your men know they're going to be the first legion to see battle. Of course, milady, Gwendol nods. Claude mouths milady and tips an imaginary fedora at Hilda, causing her to giggle. Edelgard rolls her eyes and continues, we'll need to finish ironing out the details of the invasion. What defenses does Ro have? How many men? When will we strike? That sort of thing. The War Council discusses the details for some time. They decide that the moment to strike will be the dead of night. Other details, such as how Edelgard's elite troops will sneak into the territory, are ironed out fairly quickly. As the meeting draws to a close, everyone stands and filters out the door. Nader lets out a particularly obnoxious yawn. As the doors to the meeting open, Dorothea wanders in with a wide grin. Hey, Edie, she beams. What are you planning? Edelgard glares. Nothing, the songstress folds her arms. I simply have a surprise for you. So, you are planning something. Would you relax if I told you that it wasn't me who was up to something? Dorothea sighs. I might, if I still knew what this was about, Edelgard huffs. Oh, just follow me, the idol grabs Edelgard's hand before she has a chance to rebuff. Dorothea drags her friend out of the meeting room. Edelgard's jaw slacks as she sees Ingrid and Sylvain waiting for her. How is this even remotely possible, she asks. Sylvain grins, we saw your very unsubtle message. Along with the rest of Fodlan. Frankly, we weren't expecting to see so many of our old friends here, Ingrid adds. Isn't this great? Dorothea squeals. One of Yuri's recruitment officers brought them in when she found out they knew you from uni. Edelgard, jaw still dropped, stammers out, I can't believe that you'd join my cause. Is it really so hard to imagine? Sylvain asks. You know my relationship with my military family. We saw Nemesis message the other night, Ingrid frowns. You're right. People like that can't be allowed to rule any longer. They don't deserve our loyalty. Edelgard hugs Ingrid, I'm grateful you two decided to join us. No words can express my excitement or relief to see you at my side. You aren't the only one, Ingrid smirks. We saw Felix on the way in. He seemed excited to see us, in spite of himself. Sylvain chuckles, he tried to be his usual grumpy self, but he was definitely struggling not to crack a smile. And what about Glenn? Dorothea somberly inquires. Honestly, I don't want to think about him right now, Ingrid sighs. I've had enough of that man. Maybe we can talk him down before things come to blows, or at least avoid fighting him altogether, but right now, he won't deter me from doing what's in the best interest of Fodlan. I'm glad to hear you so resolved, Edelgard grimaces, but I'm also concerned about you. You've known him for so long. Don't be. I've finally made my choice, and I'm sticking to it. For once, I actually feel in control. And I don't regret being here. Fair enough, Edelgard nods. To change the subject, I have something for you. You do? Ingrid and Sylvain ask in unison. Yes. Byleth told me that if you two ever joined, there was something in my stock that I needed to give you. It should help immensely on the field of battle. We're just two people, Sylvain shakes his head. Unless you're giving us giant robot suits, I don't see what you have that would make much of a difference. It's a bit complicated to explain, Edelgard scratches her head, but I'll start with this. Do you believe in magic? Chapter 34, Striking at Midnight. We're absolutely positive that this is the location Ro went to? Is there a chance this could be a diversion? Flesh asks. Edelgard, Ingrid, Sylvain, Felix, Gwendol, and the Black Eagles gather in a sprawling forest. Towering white spruce trees give the group the cover of darkness as they observe a massive military installation located in a nearby clearing. The main building extends for 6 stories, with who know how many sublevels. Before it, several hundred meters of concrete stretch out to the edge of the woods. Various guard stations, barracks, garages, 2-story floodlight lamps, and lookout towers fill the area. A sea of enforcers methodically pace through the facility in groups of 6 or more. This is the correct place, Miss Burgleys, Gwendol reaffirms. This location was specifically designed as a fallback point. Ro fled here as soon as I suggested it, he is too blindly concerned for his own safety to worry if this is a trap. It's too late to be uncertain now, Felix scolds. How much longer do we have to wait until we're given the signal? It should only be a minute more. My men were instructed to strike at midnight exactly, Gwendol explains. Edelgard continues, once the commotion from the violence becomes apparent, the rest of us strike from the woods. Everyone else seems to be good to go, Sylvain explains. He scans through the trees with a night sight visor, taking in the bustling image of widespread mercs sneaking through the darkness. Oh, one last check, Bernadetta cuts in over comms. Is everyone ready? This is it. Geralt replies with a bit of static, yeah, my guys are ready. Too much longer and they're liable to burst. Claude chuckles, yeah, we're ready. It's taking everything to stop Rafe from giving away our position. We're ready, Bernadetta, Edelgard confirms. A moment later, they hear shouting. They look out to the field to see enforcers scrambling towards the base, weapons drawn, as alarms sound. Then one of the entrances blows. As the enforcers back up, certain squads start spontaneously attacking others. About half of the enforcers spread out from each other in a panic over who to trust, the rest form up in attack patterns. Put on the visors, now. Edelgard commands. The teams in the woods do as instructed. The devices, though not a total replacement for night vision, artificially brighten their field of view while tagging friendly enforcers in blue. Unidentified enforcers are tagged red. Are you two ready? The Flame Emperor asks Ingrid and Sylvain. Unquestionably, Ingrid nods. The pair open a set of cases and draw their own respective relics. Their dual lances surge to life with flares of hot energy. I still don't get this magic blood stuff, Sylvain says, but I'm glad it works. Whatever it is. Ingrid chuckles as she holds fast to Lewin. I didn't expect the relic to make me feel this powerful and invigorated. Just remember to focus, Felix sighs. All right then. Edelgard exclaims over comms. Everyone. On my order. She stands. In one hand she bears a massive crimson and gold, tungsten shield adorned with the dual-headed eagle of Adrestia. In the other, she points a vibro axe towards the base. Now, attack, the Flame Emperor bellows. The black eagles, the golden deer, and the blade breakers flood onto the base from the trees. Blue-marked enforcers circle up around them. Panicked shouts and sloppy orders come from scattered officers as they rally their loyal enforcers behind them. The Imperials form a multi-layered defensive line around the entrance. Edelgard thinks she hears one of them shout something about stalling. It seems they're somewhat capable of adapting, Gwendol sneers. No thanks to Rose guidance, I'm sure. Revolutionaries. Edelgard barks. Crush them. Her forces charge at the Imperials. The Flame Emperor, at the head of the strike, sprints towards their defensive line. She feels wind rush through her hair as she reaches new speeds. Gunfire deflects off her shield as she rams into the line full force, causing it to break. Before they can surround her, revolutionaries pour in to cover her flank. Geralt swings his great sword, knocking back a small line of enforcers with a spray of blood. Felix and Petra slice through enforcers with blinding ferocity. Ingrid and Sylvain deflect vibro weapons with their hollow shields. Edelgard notes the surprised expression on Ingrid's face as she dances around her enemies with shock and excitement. Similarly, Sylvain enjoys his newfound speed and strength as his relic jabs straight through an enforcer's hollow shield, melting through his body armor. Casper cheers as his hammer sends an enforcer flying into two more, knocking the small group over. Raphael quickly high-fives him before bashing his gauntlets into an enforcer's helmet. Several more enforcers surround him before being simultaneously dispatched by relic shots from Claude and axe swings from Hilda. Raphael uppercuts one a few feet off the ground for good measure. Distant gunfire picks out a number of exposed enforcers as Ignatz remains safely tucked away in a distant lookout tower. Leonie shouts, I forgot how much fun it was to fight with these guys. Her vibro lance peels through an enforcer. I concur. They really cut to the chase. Alois beams as his vibro axe cleaves into his own opponent. Focus. Geralt berates as he cuts down another few enforcers with a grand swing. Though Edelgard doesn't often relish in battle, seeing the coordinated vigor of her team fills her chest with a vigor she wasn't expecting. With a smirk, she brings her axe down onto an opponent, her raw strength breaking through their shield and slicing into their torso. An enforcer flanks around her, but she quickly swings her shield backwards. Cracking armor and wet crunches sound off as the Enforce tumbles back several feet. Another strike from her axe beheads two Enforcers rushing towards her. The group behind them panic as she lunges at them with her shield. Their bodies crumble and scatter as she rams through them. She savors in her upgraded power and reflexes, allowing her to smash through Enforcers at an unprecedented rate. It isn't long before small groups attempt to gang up on her, but her armor and shield deflect their gunfire, forcing them to draw in closer. Some of them, anyway. As for others, even she'll admit, she enjoys the catharsis of watching multiple Enforcers flee from her in fear. The others charge at her from all sides. Her shield and axe crush the Imperials in front. The rest futilely clash against her back, their vibro swords clang off her torso, leaving only superficial scratches, though they do tear her cape. She merely spins and glares at them before readying a swing. Before she can attack, however, another three attempt to tackle her from behind. She catches herself after a brief stumble, then continues to attack the Enforcers in front of her. Her axe easily cleaves through the ones who don't run. As for the Enforcers holding onto her from behind, one attempts to strike at her skull with a vibro dagger. Yet, she kicks herself backwards, propelling the men off her. As they scramble to their feet, Edelgard dispatches two of them. The remaining Enforcer desperately aims a pistol at her face. As soon as he opens fire, she ricochets the shot with her shield back into him. She's grateful to actually gain speed with her new suit, rather than lose it. I'll have to remember to thank Linhard again. He's outdone himself. Edelgard scans around the battlefield. She and the other revolutionaries are somewhat shocked when the Enforcers start pulling back inside the building. Geralt and Claude run up to her side. They must be retreating inside the facility to gain better defensive options, Edelgard explains. Claude sighs, guess they wouldn't be stupid enough to stay out here. How do you wanna play this, Torchy? Ah, shit, Geralt sighs, pointing to the sky. I was hoping that would take longer. Four dropships close in, shining their lights onto Edelgard and her company. The main body of each ship unfolds, revealing Mark V Titanus. Each behemoth cracks the concrete upon dropping to the ground. Blue lights blink to life as the Titanus stand up and ready their arm-mounted blades with massive plated shields affixed to their other arms. Some of the revolutionaries open fire onto the machines to no effect. Okay, kid, Geralt grimaces, those things will mow through swathes of troops like they're nothing. Does your hacker have something that can deal with that? That's not how computers work, Edelgard answers, though her confident posture does not waver. Claude swears, damn it, I guess I'll have to call in Lysithea, after all. Magic melts through armor something fierce, but she'll be exposed. Belay that. Edelgard commands. Don't you remember the ace up my sleeve I told you about? Vaguely, Claude nods. Edelgard smirks and orders through her earpiece, now's the time. Put the fear of the goddess into them. The lights of the main facility start flickering for several seconds until they completely shut off. A moment later, Enforcers start spilling back out of the base's entrance. The Ashen Demon walks out of the destroyed doors behind them. Okay, fuck, Claude's eyes go wide. Don't tell me you got the Ashen Demon, kid, Geralt frowns. We needed a trump card against Nemesis. They're it, Edelgard responds. They're an unpredictable mess of terror and violence, Geralt chides. Not in my experience. The Titanus whir as they turn their backs on the revolutionaries to focus on the main threat, their programmed priority against the Ashen Demon overriding their current orders. Meanwhile, the demon walks through a storm of gunfire. In the blink of an eye, Lady at Midnight whips through a dozen Enforcers, her blade severing their bodies. With each swing of her weapon, the demon sends dozens of heads, limbs, and torsos flying. It isn't long until the remaining Imperials ignore their posts and start sprinting off. Claude shakes his head as the Titanus close in on the demon, unless they've got a bigger sword, I don't see what. The demon extends her arm as golden runes form. A wide sea of light, aura, descends from the night and melts through one of the Titanus, leaving its metal husk a steaming orange liquid that drips around murky wiring. She leaps at another machine, folding its head into itself as she crashes into its upper body. Another Titanus swings its sword, which the demon catches in her hands. She skids back a few feet before breaking the blade from its arm. The Goliath swings its shielded arm towards the demon. She bounds up into the air to dodge, then hurls the giant broken blade into the machine's head. Oil and sparks spew out as it falls backward. Upon landing, two Titanists charge for the demon. She flails another arm to activate Ragnarok. The ground bursts from under one of the Titanists as magma and fire erupt. Its massive metal body trips forward as the heat melts its right leg. The other Titanist careens into the ashen demon, burying her under its immense form. Even so, the machine struggles to keep her pinned to the ground, until a bolt of lightning strikes its back, bursting open the plating. Lady at Midnight then propels through the front of the Colossus, catapulting embers and shrapnel into every direction. The demon slinks out from under the Titanus, only to be grabbed up by another one. It attempts to crush her in its grip while she aims her free hand at its face. A burst of fire sends it stumbling back. With another spell, Balganone fire swirls around its legs until it explodes, causing the machine to fall uselessly to the ground. The remaining two Titanists sprint towards her full speed. The demon aims her sword towards the right one. The point of her weapon jets forward as her blade extends. The sharp cord plunges into the Titanist's face, then the demon pulls herself into it like a grapnel. She crushes its head upon impact as the other machine struggles to slow itself down. Before it can swing at her, she leaps back up into the air. She summons another thunder spell onto the remaining Titanus, and sparks fly as it stumbles. She lands and launches fire into it. The explosion exposes its innards. Then, with a brightness Ferrata spell, she detonates the inside of the machine as its husk falls to the side. The demon notices the one with the melted leg dragging itself towards her. She simply walks up to the Titanus and buries her sword into its face, twisting the weapon to wrench off its head for good measure. The ashen demon stands back. With a huff she looks to her side. The revolutionaries, a few hundred men, women, and other assorted troops, all stare at her. A small army silenced by the spectacle. Several dozen of them shakily cling to their weapons, expecting to defend themselves against the demon. She briefly looks down, then flees into the darkened base, disappearing from their sight. Two revolutionaries haul along a smartly dressed man with sandy hair and a bulletproof vest. They drop him before Edelgard and Gwendol. "Roche," he spits. "I didn't take you, of all people, as a traitor." The old general laughs. "Well, Ro, you should know about snakes better than anyone. And now you'll have the option of turning traitor, too, by joining us. Unless of course, you consider your long-time betrayal of your own people to have made you the traitor all along. Either way, call us even." "Enough," Edelgard looks to Ro. "If you value your life, you'll join our cause. We will, naturally, keep a very close eye on you, should you accept." The Count casts his eyes to the ground as the revolutionaries drag him off. Claude then runs up to Edelgard. "Okay, that was insane," he says. "It's not often anyone can pull one over on me. How the hell did you wrangle that into joining you? How did you meet it? How do you talk to it?" "It's a long story," Edelgard frowns. "And they're not in it. Remember that." "Fine, whatever," he waves. "But seriously, where did they go? I have lot of questions." "I'm not sure, to be honest," Edelgard admits. "You make sure everything is stable here. I'll go look for them." Claude sighs. "Wow, you have gotten remarkably beaux since you became a celebrity." "So, this is where you disappeared to," Edelgard says as she exits onto the roof of the facility. "Why'd you run off?" Byleth sits quietly, staring at the stars. Her helmet is disassembled on the ground next to her as her hood is pulled down. Is all she says in response. "You did spectacularly today," Edelgard encourages. "I suppose." Edelgard folds her arms. "Damn it, Byleth, what is it? It's clear something's bothering you, but you won't speak of it. You're not successful at hiding it, so spit it out." Byleth shakes her head. "Did you see the way they looked at me? It's the same way everyone always looks at me. You're the Ashen Demon. Aren't you supposed to scare them? Wasn't that the point?" "You know," Byleth looks at her, "I've always hated that name. I never picked it out. On this world or the other, people just forced it onto me. I never wanted to scare people. It just happened that way. I see, Edelgard sits next to her. But isn't intimidating our enemies a good thing? 2 Agarthants, Kronia and Solon, both died terrified of me, her voice shakes. When even monsters are afraid of me, what does that make me? Byleth. And it's not just our enemies. Byleth yelps. Everyone is always so scared of me. Even the Demblade Breakers. I didn't ask to be this weird god-demon thing with broken emotions. I don't want to be the bad guy. Hell, you're the only one who ever even called me by name on that other world. I don't think I'm a person to them. Edelgard sits in silence for a moment, pondering while Byleth catches her breath. Then she responds, Byleth, I'm sorry. I didn't know you felt that way. Perhaps that's why you should join the rest of us down there. I can't. Byleth. I happen to remember that everyone else loved you in the other world. They'll love you in this one. The Black Eagles are already a bit smitten with you, in fact. Besides, they won't see you as a person if you won't let yourself be a person to them. Please, talk to them. Let them see that you're just you. Not some scary clinically sociopathic monster who destroys everything in her path. Byleth exhales as she resigns, all right. Raphael swings his arms in a grand gesture, the way you clotheslined that guy with your hammer was so cool. Casper cheers, not as cool as you uppercutting that one dude. That was like a video game move. Why must you two insist upon admiring these violent battles? Lysithea admonishes. The Black Eagles and Golden Deer, along with the Faerghus trio, gather around a rec room in the base. A vending machine with a shattered front leans against a wall a few feet away as the more rambunctious members of the team snack in celebration. Even Hilda happily nibbles away at a small bag of pretzels as she leans into Claude. The teams go quiet as Edelgard and Byleth approach. They stare at Byleth upon recognizing her armor, though the Golden Deer react a bit more strongly. That suit, Marianne notices. That's. By the goddess, Ingrid trails off. Claude laughs in disbelief, wow. Yet another surprise from the infamous Edelgard. He gapes at Byleth, you neglected to mention you were porking the Ashen Demon. I guess that explains why you two are on such good terms. Ignoring his comment, Edelgard takes Byleth's hand, everyone, allow me to introduce you to our secret weapon the Ashen Empress. Byleth turns to Edelgard, eyes wide and cheeks red. Casper pumps his fist, aw man. It was so cool to finally see you fight for real. I had no idea you knew magic, too. I know a bit of everything, Byleth says. I didn't know people could get that strong. Raphael runs up to her. You gotta tell me your secret. Enough, Raphael, Lysithea scolds as she approaches. She scrutinizes Byleth, don't tell me you've been experimented on, too. Your hair is the wrong color. It's a bit different with me, the professor explains. I was given powers by the Knights of Syros, not the Empire. And my mother was also a Nabatean. Claude cocks his head, okay, the number of bombshells you're dropping is going from amusing to frustrating. You mean your mom was one of those dragon people? Wait, there's dragon people now? Sylvain asks. Edelgard rubs her temple, I'll explain it all to you later. The crests were only the tip of the iceberg. Raphael practically bounces, I'm so excited. Nemesis won't know what hit him. And when we beat him, Byleth explains, I can finally get my relic back. You have a relic, too. Claude squints. Yes. The Sword of the Creator. Everyone stares again, and Byleth shifts her weight nervously. Casper breaks the silence, super strength, magic, and Nemesis sword? Man, with you on our side, we'll be totally unstoppable. There's no way anyone is strong enough to beat you. Chapter 35, Crossroads. 2 years ago. You want one? No thanks. I don't smoke. Geez, guy, trust me, in this line of work, you wanna take up something. Lights a cigarette. Drinkin', gamblin' anything to take the edge off of this job. So then what does your brother do? Smoke or drink? Fuck you, Gets smirks. All my life I gotta hear, don't be mean to Jets. He's the good one. Why can't ya be more like Jets? He's goin' places. Oh, Gets, have ya heard? Jets got into the Blade Breakers. Whenry you joinin' 'em? Berlin? Who the fuck is that? Fucking pissants, all of 'em. Do you hate your brother? Hate 'em? Nah, Gets shakes his head. Don't give fuck about 'em. He never gave a fuck about me. A small stream of smoke rises from his cigarette, a contrast to the snow floating down around them. Less than half an inch gathers around their feet. Their frosty breath fades into the crisp air as Gets leans against the wall. Between them stands a somewhat rusted, reinforced metal door with a dim lamp above it, the only source of light on this cloudy night. Snow-covered pine trees stretch around the facility as far as the eye can see, shrouding the surrounding area in darkness. Shay glances at the small orange ember on the tip of Gets's cigarette, then stares out into the shadowy woods. Hey, Gets. Yeah. What do you think they actually have us guarding? How many times do I have to tell ya? Gets sighs. Don't think too deep about an employer's orders, especially when it's the Empire. It's best not to know. All we have to worry about is sounding the alarm if something goes wrong. Berlin will come out with the rest of our guys and kick ass. Not that that's gonna happen anytime soon. Jobs like this are always the same. You stand still all night. Piss on some bushes. Maybe scare away a coyote if you're lucky. Berlin's the one who usually sees all the action. She sounds pretty strong, Shay smiles. Gets chuckles, you should see her fight sometime. What I wouldn't give to watch her kick the Blade Breakers' asses. We gotta hire more guys first before we can actually take 'em on. Then you'd have to fight your brother. Gets laughs, yeah, wouldn't that be something? He flicks the cigarette into the snow. An hour passes. Shay stretches and yawns. Well, mercenary work is officially more boring than I thought it would be. He runs a hand through his purple hair. Heh. Careful what you wish for, guy. Yeah, some nights are boring, but you'd be surprised how shit can go south sometimes, Gets explains. The lamp above them starts flickering. Ah hell, fucking speak of the devil, literally, Gets pulls out a small vibro hand axe. What? Shay asks, drawing his own vibro sword in alarm. It's just a shitty light. You really don't pay attention to the word on the street, do ya, guy? Flickering lights mean the Ashen Demon is coming for ya, Gets says. Shay sighs and slacks his shoulders, or it could just be a shitty light. You really so worked up over an arbitrary myth? It ain't a myth, Gets pulls a communicator from his belt and speaks into it. Hey? Can anyone read me? Lazai? Berlin. Static responds. Shit, he mumbles. If anyone can hear this, ya really need. The lamp shuts off as a black blade with a violet light whip into the side of the building through Gets's neck, releasing a shower of sparks. Gets's head, hand, and communicator fall to the ground as his body slumps over in a separate direction. The unidentified weapon suddenly retracts into the dark woods. A second later, Shay hears bootsteps crunch against the snow. He pulls out a flashlight, sword shakily pointed outward. His light reflects off of a hooded figure which slowly walks up to the door, ignoring Shay. Hey! Shay shouts. Who the fuck are you? The demon disregards him as they jam their hand into the door, shoving it aside. I said, hey. Shay yells again as he swings the sword into the back of their head. The blade breaks off as the demon pauses. It doesn't matter who you are, Shay asserts. You aren't getting out of here alive, even if you kill me. Berlin's guys will take care of you. He pulls out a vibro knife and lunges at what he assumes is the demon's kidney. They extend a hand, grabbing his chest. Without a word, they throw him back several yards. He grunts in pain as he rolls in the snow. The demon continues to walk inside. Shay stands and sprints indoors, but it's too late then. The demon has already disappeared, and the facility is pitch black. He hears gunfire and screaming in the distance. A moment later, the atrocious sounds of wrenching metal and explosions echo off the walls. He holds his flashlight and follows the audible chaos. Shay passes through a severed blast door. He grimaces upon the sight of bodies littering the other side of it. A few surviving mercenaries huddle into a corner, eyes pale and limbs shaking. He runs up to them. "Hey, did you see which way they went?" "Fucking shit, man. The fuck was that?" One of the mercs trembles. "Focus." Shay barks. "Where'd they go?" Another explosion shakes the whole building. "Never mind," Shay exhales as he sprints after the noise. He enters into another hallway. A few fleeing mercenaries run past him. Seconds later, he starts passing by more bodies. Some are crushed. Some are eviscerated. His bootsteps slam into puddles of viscid blood, leaving a trail behind him as he follows the mayhem. All of this carnage, caused by that beast. They must be stopped. "We must protect our paradise," a childish voice faintly resonates. Shay exits out into a large chamber. Machinery burns along the edges of the room, bathing the area in an orange glow. More casualties, he observes. He checks for survivors amongst the bodies that still seem intact. None have a pulse until he approaches one he recognizes. "Lazai," he gasps. The woman is splayed across the floor, blood pooling underneath her. Her intestines are partially exposed and unraveled from a large gash. He scans over her and clenches his fist. Her hand suddenly catches his ankle as she chokes. "Shay," she whimpers. "Berlin, help Berlin." Shay kneels down and takes her hand. Lazai grips onto him while her chest heaves. Then her breathing slows to a stop and her grip loosens. He lets her go, and her arm collapses to the ground, eyes still staring blankly into his. He sighs as he stands up straight. Swearing under his breath, Shay continues along the trail of bloodshed and fire. He enters into another large chamber, the most massive yet. It appears to be a production facility of some kind. He sees parts for large humanoid machines scattered across conveyor belts and assembly lines. Heads, hands, feet, and massive blades no person could lift. "I see. We were hired to guard a Titanus production facility. But what would the Ashen Demon want with a place like this?" He hears a commanding feminine voice swearing from above him. "Berlin. Fucking hold it, or I blow us both to Alel," the captain screams. Shay looks up to see both the Ashen Demon and Berlin on a catwalk. The captain holds a grenade in one hand and a whole belt full of grenades in the other. "Berlin!" Shay calls out. She looks down. "Shay, don't be stupid. Get out of here." The demon interrupts. "I have no interest in killing either of you. Enough of your mercenaries have already fallen. That's why I'm killing you." Berlin barks. "You really think you can kill my guys, destroy my troop, ruin my job and my reputation, take what you want, and then just leave? You don't call the shots here. And I'm paying you back for what you've done. Stand down," the demon reasserts. "I have no business with you. Only the Empire. Fuck you. And fuck the Empire. It doesn't matter what this is about. I'll show a monster like you that a real fighter never quits, no matter how hopeless it is." Berlin screams as she pulls the pin on the single grenade in her hand. "Berlin, don't!" Shay's cry is deafened by a massive burst of white. He doesn't actually hear the explosion. He barely registers even seeing the blast. He simply experiences a split-second flash of light. Then darkness, ringing, and a tingle in his limbs. Shay struggles to his feet, unaware of how much time has passed, pulling himself up by something. He can barely see the mutilated machinery to which he clings. His vision is a distorted mess of darkness and multicolored phosphens temporarily burned into his eyes. He blinks and stumbles as sight slowly returns to him. The next thing he sees is a partially melted and collapsed catwalk being tossed to the side. The Ashen Demon pulls themselves out of the wreckage of the explosion, stretching the cramps out of their limbs and neck. "You bastard!" Shay screams. He clumsily charges towards the demon with his knife drawn, still disoriented from the blast. He trips before reaching his target, landing at their feet. "Enough," they command. "There's no reason to continue this fight." "There's plenty of reason." Shay again struggles to his feet, breath rasping and lungs burning. "I don't know what you are, but someone's gotta stand up to you." Shay swings his knife against the demon's armor. The blade snaps. They put their palm against his chest and push him down. The Ashen Demon turns their back on him, and the last thing his fading vision sees is the dark figure walking away. I have to keep fighting, he chokes out. The cycle of this world. I will not allow it to perish with you. His vision blackens, giving way to a strange series of golden lights. The lights form strange lines and angular symbols too complex to discern. A fiery golden aura explodes from Shay's body, prompting the demon to turn their focus back to him. He stands to his feet, eyes burning orange with shimmering white streaks adorning his face. Orange jagged halos surround his nape and wrists as he instinctively extends his arms. In each hand, a sword forms. The blades appear to him to be both medieval and alien in design. Where did you get that power? The demon calmly asks. No idea. But it's just what I need to bring you down. Shay flourishes around at blinding speeds, leaving after images. He strikes at the demon, who sidesteps the attack. His blades cleave through a massive piece of machinery, leaving a glowing gash upon impact. Interesting, the demon assesses. You're fighting like an entirely different person. It doesn't matter what this is. I'm gonna pay you back for what you did to the captain. Shay unleashes another glowing attack. His blades swing against the demon's armor, leaving a superficial scratch. Their body doesn't so much as flinch. He makes eye contact with them for only a second before they backhand him. Shay's sight again blurs as he crashes through a conveyor belt and into a wall, wrinkling its metal surface. He tumbles out of the indent, drooling blood and saliva into the floor as his aura leaves him. Shay wakes up. A clear starry sky surrounds him on all sides, even below. Wait, below? Rocks and black pillars float around him, with strange patterns of cerulean light carved into them. Where am I? Oh good, you're awake, a childlike voice echoes before an all-white figure appears, startling Shay. The style of their pale clothing and facial markings are completely foreign to him. The only color on their figure is in their scarlet eyes and earrings. Not sure I would have been able to sleep at night with your blood on my hands. Am I dead? Shay asks. No, not yet. And you're not a good listener, either. Did I not just say how pleased I am that you're still alive? Regardless, I am a being who exists on the edge of dreams and reality. You may call me Arvel. Shay sighs, Arvel, huh. The spirit continues, but for now, let me speak plain, you are slated to die. Right now, I'm the only thing holding your meager life together. And to be blunt, it's beginning to tire me. Thank you. Shay cocks his head. Oh. Oh my. That's the first time anyone has ever shown me gratitude, and I must say, I like it very much. Hear me well. You are a crucial piece of this world's cyclical. They trail off and groan. Ugh. No, this will never do. You're far too groggy to absorb what I'm saying. For now, I needn't tell you how you'll get back on your feet. I need only convince you that you will. I don't understand, Shay retorts. I'm already up and about. Ah, perhaps here you are, but not in reality where it counts, Arvel chuckles. Your cluelessness is actually quite charming. I think you're starting to grow on me. Still, the important thing is what you do after you wake. And what should that be? Arvel tuts, recall, please, how the Ashen Demon bested you. Came within an inch of snuffing out your life. If you attempt the fight again the same way, you will reach the same conclusion. This would force me to step in once more, which would be most annoying. And also, rather counterproductive if I'm honest. Shay raises his fist, then I'll get stronger. The man I am now will seem like a little kid in comparison. And one day, I will surpass the Ashen Demon. I swear it. Indeed, Arvel nods. Shay glowers again, my captain and comrades are dead. The troop is finished. So there's only one thing I can do. Start over. Arvel rubs their chin, I thought you to be more sentimental. Did they not take you in? Care for you. Money's the only thing that held them together, and death is something we're all too used to. I never knew my real parents, and I lost the mother who raised me. Partings just come easy to me, I guess. The best way to honor my fallen comrades is by training hard and growing even stronger. Then I'll crush the Ashen Demon. That's what I'm going to live for now. Arvel exclaims, "Oh, but I like your spirit. Though, I expect no less from my partner in destiny." "I'm sorry, what?" Shay raises an eyebrow. "Yes, I suppose that was a bit sudden," Arvel shrugs. "I should remember, take intimacy in smaller steps. The point is that I'm here to guide you, and I promise to help you find the strength to see your dream realized." Shay then finds himself truly awake. Dawn's light cracks through some gashes within the facility's wall. Swirls of smoke roll off some still smoldering hunks of metal. Shay looks to the obliterated remains of the catwalk and balls his fists. Speaking to no one, he declares, "Someone's gotta stop the Ashen Demon. A monster like that can't be allowed to run free. The way I see it, I'm the only one who has that power, and that's a promise." Chapter 36, Replacement. Hubert, Ludwig turns up his nose. "What do we have on Edelgard?" Governor Aegir paces into a control center filled with Imperials. Security monitors line the back wall, giving multi-angle views on Edelgard's manse. Hubert stands on the upper floor of the center, overseeing the operation. "Nothing, sir," he answers. "The house was stripped of any devices that would lend usable information." Ludwig sneers, "Again, you prove useless." "With all due respect, sir, Edelgard is not a fool. She wouldn't leave critical information in her house after announcing her true identity to all of Fodlan. This outcome was to be expected. Our monitoring of the location is nothing more than protocol," Hubert responds. "And what of the broadcast's source?" the governor asks. "As predicted, it was a decoy. Nothing more than an abandoned subway." Ludwig scoffs, "How convenient that all your failures are part of your plan." "Enough blathering," a harsh voice rasps. Thales walks into the center with noiseless footsteps. "The Vestra boy is right, the girl has clearly been planning this for a long time. It's no use losing composure over the most basic level of competence in our opponents." "Lord Thales." Ludwig bows. "You needn't be here, sir. I am more than capable of taking care of these whelps. You and Lord Nemesis are above such matters, sir. The Ashen Demon is likely among their ranks," Thales explains. "A jabbering oaf such as yourself shouldn't waste our time and resources trying to deal with it." "The Ashen Demon, sir?" Ludwig gasps. "What would it want with that naive wench?" "That is beyond your understanding," Thales retorts. "Or my valuable time to explain. Regardless, I already have a strategy to cut off the snake's head." He turns to Hubert. "Vestra, have you looked into known contacts from Edelgard Eisner's past?" "Of course, sir," Hubert nods. "All regular affiliates to Edelgard disappeared just prior to her declaration. Even the famous Dorothea Arnault." "I don't know or care who Arnault is," Thales responds. "Is there anyone from her past whom you have been able to observe?" Hubert grimaces before reluctantly answering, "A girl named Monica Oakes. She was known to cling tightly to Edelgard's side just after their graduation from the University of Adrestian Heritage." "And? What more? Spit it out." Thales howls. "We have a live security feed on the young woman. She is currently shopping in the Varley district," Hubert answers. "Excellent. Detain her." Ludwig rubs his palms together nervously. "Swell show, milord. I take it you wish for me to torture the girl for information." Hubert hisses, "Fool, we mustn't damage her in any way." Ludwig's eyes bulge. "You dare?" "Again, the boy is correct," Thales sighs. "He's already placed my strategy. We can torture Oakes later. First, an unharmed specimen is required for the replacement process. Most unfortunate." "Our replacement, sir?" Thales grins. "Governor Aegir, good tool that you are, you have been most privileged not to require replacement. You've long since realized that our self-interests are your self-interests. Regrettably, others are not so wise. Take Governor Arnhem, for example. The old woman was far too loyal to the ideals of the last Fair Gus governor. Until we corrected the situation during her subservience to him. Replacement is a useful process to ensure the cooperation, the unity, even, of our fine rulers." "Is this some sort of indoctrination process?" Aegir asks with a twinge of fear. "No. As the name implies, we replace. Our own agents take the appearance and identity of the intended target. Unfortunately, the process takes almost 2 weeks to complete, and the subject cannot be substantially damaged. I must say, it's been a while since we've had to utilize the technique for military espionage. I still remember the delicious expressions of the late King and Queen of Almira. How tragic that the firstborn prince should turn on them. But, you publicly executed Shahid at the end of the war, Ludwig stammers. We simply recalled our double and kept the prince alive for the necessary time frame. Thales's tone is cold and unwavering. Hubert interrupts, I imagine you have an agent in mind already. Naturally, Thales nods. He presses a button on one of his cuffs and the door to the control center slides open. Allow me to introduce Kronia. A pale woman happily strides in, her orange hair bouncing. Hubert recognizes her complex bodysuit as Agarthan in design. Her expression is simultaneously childish and malevolent, the tear tattoo under her exposed eye adding a bizarre contrast to her demeanor. Am I finally going to see some active duty, Lord Thales? She eagerly inquires. Patience, Kronia, he chides. We need you to replace one of the Flame Emperor's agents. Undercover. Kronia whines. But that takes forever, and it's so boring. Thales sighs, worry not. You'll be allowed to assassinate the target in her sleep after you report all the details of her army and her unidentified allies. Oh, very well. Can I at least use a knife to gut her? Or does it have to be poison again? Hubert winces, you are not very tactful, are you? Says you. Kronia yells. I've heard of the infamous Hubert Vestra and the trail of bodies you leave behind in your schemes. You know, our people say you should have been born an Agarthan. Thales interjects, cease your bickering, both of you. Vestra, give the order to your people to arrest the girl. Of course, sir, Hubert bows. Oh, this is cute. Monica pulls a goldenrod floral pattern blouse from a rack. Merci would look good in this. It just needs a pair of good jeans to go with it. Miss Oakes, a woman's deep voice calls. Yes, the redhead turns to see two people outfitted as mall security guards. Do you need something? We have some questions about a possible illicit transaction in your name. Please follow us, ma'am, the woman says. But I haven't even bought any. Monica swallows when one of them flashes their sidearm. This is non-negotiable, Miss Oakes, the security responds. You will come with us. Hand over your purse and any communication devices on your person. Any failure to comply will result in the use of force, lethal if necessary. I honestly didn't think the Ashen Demon would be so cute. You know, in a rough sorta way, Hilda chirps. The Golden Deer and Sylvain surround Byleth in one of Holst's massive cafeterias during dinner. Hilda, please, Marianne softly admonishes. Can you fly? Raphael asks. No, Byleth answers. Well, you appear and disappear so quickly, Ignatz says. Do you use some form of teleportation? My suit has a cloaking device. Cloaking? Lysathea asks. I didn't think that technology was possible. Unless it's magic. Can you turn into a dragon? Claude interrupts. Everyone looks at him. Because she's a dragon person, he justifies. I'm a human-born genetic hybrid. And no. Is it true that the goddess came from the blue sea star? Hilda asks. I'm pretty sure that was just made up, the professor answers. Please, tell me, Marianne pleads, can you communicate with the goddess? You had mentioned your power was derivative of hers. Not anymore, Byleth explains. Anymore. Sylvain gawks. You were able to talk to her in the first place? Was she hot? It's a long story, she's gone now, and she had the body of a child. Ah, Sylvain cringes. Byleth, Edelgard's call disrupts. She, Mercedes, and Dorothea approach with distressed expressions. Have any of you seen Monica, perchance? Byleth shakes her head. Nope, Claude answers, sharing similar sentiments with everyone else in the group. Is she missing? Byleth frowns. Mercedes closes her eyes and furrows her brow. She went out shopping in the Varley district this morning. She insisted that she wanted to buy me something, but none of us have heard back from her since. Hey, Dorothea Coos, it's going to be okay, merci. We'll find her lickety-split. Hopefully, it'll all be some misunderstanding. Byleth, Edelgard reins the conversation in, it is imperative that we find Monica. I've already gotten in contact with Yuri to begin the search. The professor nods, I'll help however I can. Hold on, Claude asserts. I'm all for finding her. But we can't put the brakes on everything because of this. Edelgard glares at him, if the Empire has gotten a hold of her, that puts our entire operation in jeopardy. We need to find her. I get that, he defends. But can we really bring things to a dead stop over this? We're fighting a war, in the grand scheme of things, we can't afford to pour all our resources into this for too long. Edelgard scowls, I'm not just letting my friend go. Make no mistake, I do not plan to put our war on hold. But I am not going to sacrifice Monica like she's nothing or risk our enemies torturing her for information. Fine, Claude sighs. But you can't divert too much into this. We still need to keep our momentum going and figure out our next target before they get wise to row. Byleth stands up, Edelgard. I promise I'm going to find her. This isn't the first time I've seen something like this. Oh. Edelgard's eyes widen. If I'm right, then we need to hurry, Byleth declares. A splash of ice water startles Monica into consciousness. Wakey wakey, a shrill voice cheers. What? Where am I? Monica starts trying to sit up and kick. Her hands are chained to a pole as she sits on the metal floor of an unidentifiably dark room, with only a dim lamp on the floor beside her. She assumes she's in a massive chamber, given the loud echo of her voice. A ghoulish young woman toothily grins down at her holding a metal bucket. Lucky for you, I can't kill you yet. Or even torture you too much, Kronia grumbles. Buledinute, I can still have some fun with you. I'm allowed to keep you sleep deprived, feed you the bare minimum, and I can still ask you questions. I'd recommend answering them because that'll kinda determine whether or not I kill you by stabbing you in the throat, or disemboweling you. That last one is way more painful, and normal people, she gestures with air quotes, as it turns out get super horrified watching their own guts spill out before they die. So, sucks to suck. What the hell is wrong with you? Monica shrieks, tears starting to trickle down her cheeks. Oh, I'm just having some fun. Silly ol me. Kronia blushes and flares her hand. But for real cease, you will die a horrible death. Or an even more horrible death if you don't tell me what I want to know. And no one will even miss you when you're gone. How fucked up is that? Fuck you, Monica sobs. I won't tell you anything about Miss Hresvelg. Do your worst, she heaves. Oh my. You're trying to be so brave like a big girl. I can tell you're going to be loads of fun. Chapter 37, When It Rains. Yuri looks through a scout report with a sigh, still nothing. The Empire could have taken her anywhere. Damn it. Balthus slams his fist into Yuri's bar top. We've gotta find her. Happy glares at him, you better not be saying that just because you think she's cute. I'm dead serious, Happy, Balthus purses his lips. I know how much this sorta thing means to you. Hey, Yuri calls, it's gonna be okay, Happy. We'll find her. Thanks, Yuri bird. But I'll believe it when I see it, Happy casts her head down. The door swings open and Constance runs in with a cackle, ho there, friends. I bear great tidings. Easy there, playwright, Yuri scoffs. Please tell us this is about Monica. Why of course, Constance smirks. Not but a mere moment ago, one of our underlings brought me this. She hands Yuri a slip of paper. Well? Happy asks impatiently. It's a set of coordinates, Yuri answers. And an anonymous note, your friend is here. You have less than 2 weeks to locate her before they dispose of her and replace her with a mole. Replace her with a mole? What does that mean? Balthus asks. Who even wrote that? If it's legit, Yuri explains, it probably comes from someone in the Empire who's disillusioned with their actions. I'll have to send my people to verify it first. Then we'll have to tell Edelgard. What are you waiting for? Happy grimaces. We need to help her as soon as possible. No one should have to go through that. Count Karen, a stout man with curly blonde hair which is currently fading to white, looks out of his office, drink in hand. Assorted civilians, enforcers, and politicians meander through the offices of his city hall. Every one of them has one task or another to complete. Karen, on the other hand, cannot bring himself to work. Today is the anniversary of his daughter's death. At least, it is according to the public record. To him, that's better than the shame of losing her to the filthy lifestyle of a filthy mercenary. He rubs his face, smelling the alcohol on his own breath. His thoughts are interrupted by the distant voices of some people arguing. Then a gunshot and screaming. Not 2 seconds later, the ground violently shakes as glass shatters throughout the building. A series of deafening explosions is heard throughout Karen territory. Count Karen himself hides under his desk, wondering what all has been bombed. And who all has been killed. His door swings open, and a small group of men and women in silver-white body armor storm into his office. He recognizes the strange red symbol on their uniforms, the crest of Ceros. They pull him out from his desk and drag him to the man he supposes to be the leader of this attack. He's a large wall of a human in thick gray body armor with orange highlights. His peach-colored hair, tied back into a long ponytail, has gray streaks. Unshaven stubble peppers his brick of a jaw. His steely eyes pierce into Karen's. Count Karen, the man begins, I am Gustav Dominic of the Knights of Ceros. Our order has decreed judgment on your empire and the unholy war of the so-called Flame Emperor. No longer will we be satisfied with merely eradicating the sinners of Fodlan through meager attacks. We, too, shall fight, and we shall claim land in the name of the goddess. Consider your territory under the domain of the protectors of the goddess will. So is ordered by the Lord of Knights. I don't care who your lord is. The Empire will never bow to dogs like you, Karen spits. Spoken like a true dog, Gustav's expression does not change. Soon, we will prepare a warning to Fodlan. It would be best if you cooperate. Claude turns off the breaking news report. The Black Eagles and Golden Deer sit in silence after the account of a bombing and hostage situation in Karen territory. What did I tell you? Claude begins. The war won't wait for you, Torchy. You have to make a judgment call. Edelgard seethes, we cannot simply abandon Monica. She. A revolutionary sprints up to the duo, Lady Edelgard. It's Yuri. He's found Monica. What? Edelgard and Mercedes concurrently exclaim. Mercedes stands and looks as Edelgard, please, she begs. We have to rescue money. Claude sighs, I feel bad for saying this, but we have more pressing matters on our hands. I suppose you could always let the Empire and the Knights have at it, but who knows how many casualties that'll leave behind. Before Edelgard can respond, another revolutionary approaches with a small device, Lady Edelgard. It's Shamir's mercenaries. They have an urgent message. Damn it. Edelgard swears. Can't we get 2 seconds to get our bearings straight? Fine, put them on. The revolutionary presses a button on the device and Shamir's voice begins, Edelgard, we need to talk about. Catherine's voice interrupts, Edelgard. Karen is my home region, and my father is one of those knights' hostages. Our troop is already en route, please, meet us there. The place is swarming with knights, and who knows how the Empire will retaliate. This is important to Catherine, Shamir explains, which makes it important to me. If we don't get your assistance on this, we're out of your revolution. The message terminates. Claude shakes his head, we have to react. Now. The lives of those people and the well-being of our army take precedence over one girl. We'll help Monica after, if we can, but this is our top priority. Edelgard takes a step back. She paces, clenching her jaw in fists, very well. Send word to Shamir that she's getting reinforcements. I'll personally lead the division to ensure the completion of this mission as soon as possible. Edelgard, a voice cuts in. What is it now? She snaps. Byleth stands in the doorway, a little shocked at the outburst. Edelgard's expression radically drops as she sees the woman. Byleth, I'm sorry I didn't. It's all right, Byleth nods. I know you're under a lot of pressure. I was just going to say that I overheard everything. I can go to Monica's location while you take care of the knights. It'll be easier for me to rescue her by myself, anyway. If I'm right about who's with her, a small army might prompt them to execute Monica while we're trying to reach her. Edelgard strides towards the woman and embraces her. Oh, thank you, she declares, pecking the woman on the lips. That's a relief to hear. Mercedes takes Byleth's hand. Professor, thank you so much. Please help Monica. I shudder to think what they're doing to her. The Ashen Empress silently paces up to an empty warehouse near the border of the Varley district. With her cloaking device, she slips past the enforcers in front without a fight, entering through a side window. She sneaks atop a catwalk overlooking the upper floor. The entire interior of the facility is rather barren, only enforcers fill the location. No crates. No weapons. No workstations. Her attention draws to a large office in the corner of the ground floor. She quietly lowers herself to the upper floor below her, then creeps to a nearby set of stairs to the lower level. Slinking past the guards, she arrives at the wooden door to the office. She places a hand against the lock and presses. She scans around in alarm when the lock wrenches apart, popping the door open. She dashes in before any enforcers can investigate. The office itself is typical. A desk. 2 bookcases. 2 chairs set against a wall. A whiteboard. She scrutinizes the room for any sort of hint to Monica's location. In the process, she stumbles upon a button in one of the drawers of the desk. Before she can press it, a feminine voice calls out. Is anyone in here? A guard demands. The enforcer looks around the room, eyes passing over the Empress' invisible frame. She would have let the guard go, if she hadn't pulled out a radio to report the broken lock. The Empress lunges over the desk and into the guard. The woman grunts in confusion. To ensure she can't call for help, the Empress presses her hand into the guard's throat and rings. The wet crunch disgusts Byleth as she drops the woman's body to the ground. Byleth rushes back to the desk and presses the button. A false wall slides away, revealing a staircase. The Empress takes the tunnel, sprinting downward and exiting into a massive chamber. There is no light. The only thing she sees is a dimly lit pole with a sobbing Monica chained to it several dozen yards away. In front of her, she recognizes Kronia. She can't make out the Agarthan's voice, but she can image the cruel taunts she's levying at the girl. Byleth sneaks in closer, but before she can get in range to strike, all the lights in the chamber switch on, exposing just how empty the area is. Kronia lets out a nasally chuckle. Thales said there was a chance you might be the one to come after us. The Agarthan turns to the general direction of the Empress, much to Byleth's shock. You know, ever since your encounter with Nemesis, all of us high-ranking Agarthans are taught at least a little magic. That way, we can sense your suit, and your blood. The assassin raises a trigger, and my pets will be able to sniff you out. So there's no point in hiding. Kronia presses the button, and 3 massive doors slide open on the floor. Caged demonic beasts rise through the openings, writhing against the electrified bars. Kronia presses the button again, releasing the snarling beasts. The Empress turns a dial on her belt, deactivating her cloak. Monica's wet eyes widen. Why you? Why you're the one that came for me? The Empress glares at Kronia. I will kill these beasts, and I will kill you if you hurt that girl. Oh, frightening, Kronia taunts. Puppies, kill the rat bastard. A beast charges for the Empress. She merely jumps and whips her ebony blade downwards, severing the head of the monster. Upon landing, she launches fire at the closest beast. Though the blast causes pain to the creature, it doesn't slow down as it swings its claws for Byleth. The Empress rolls out of the way, noting, these creatures must have been modified against magic. They're certainly more resistant than the Titaness. She whips her sword into the leg of the creature, cutting clean through most of the limb. It reels in pain as the third creature rushes towards the Empress. Meanwhile, Kronia glowers at the fight, realizing how quickly things are turning against her. She turns to Monica and draws an unholy knife in each of her hands. She shouts, "Fine. If I can't take your place, then I'll kill you myself." The assassin laughs as she sprints towards Monica. The redhead cries in terror before her hands are suddenly released by Lady at Midnight tearing through her chains. The Empress whips her sword again, this time in the direction of Cronia. Byleth isn't given much of an opening from her fight with the beasts, so her blade only passes through Cronia's leg. As the limb abruptly divides from itself, Cronia stumbles forward, screaming in pain. Her knives skitter across the floor as she pulls herself up by her arms. The assassin retrieves one knife, only to look up and see Monica. Monica shakily points the other knife at Cronia. The Agar then bellows out a wicked, raging shriek as she awkwardly dives for the redhead with her weapon. Monica closes her eyes and jabs her knife forward. A knife clangs as it drops to the ground. Monica feels a wetness spray across her hands and face. She opens her eyes. Cronia stares at her, gurgling. She tightly grips the knife that protrudes from the assassin's throat. The fear in the Agarthan's eyes is almost akin to a terrified child. Monica shoves both the knife and Cronia forward, causing the Agarthan to fall on her back. She looks up to Monica, tears forming as she struggles for air. Blood rapidly puddles around her neck while she stretches her hand towards Monica. Help, Cronia faintly chokes out, tears staining her makeup. Her arm drops as her wet eyes glaze over, still affixed to Monica. The redhead stares for a couple of seconds, then screams to the top of her lungs. Her throat burns as she lets out wail after wail and collapses to the ground. The Ashen Empress, covered in the blood of the beasts, runs up to the girl. Byleth rapidly peels her helmet off and pulls back her hood, kneeling by Monica. She takes the girl into her arms, letting her sob against her chest. Dorothea's voice trembles as she speaks to Byleth. They both wait outside the infirmary. I hate this. Byleth shakes her head. Don't worry. I'll protect you. I'll protect all of you. That's my job. That's sweet of you, so say, Professor. Dorothea grimly smiles. But what I hate is feeling so useless. You're all out there fighting, but when one of my best friends is kidnapped, I'm stuck here, doing fuck all. Dorothea. The door to the infirmary opens and Mercedes steps out. Money's awake now. She said she wanted to talk with you, Professor. Byleth nods and enters, Mercedes and Dorothea by her side. Monica sits in her bed, face green. Byleth, the redhead meekly begins, I wanted to say thank you for saving me. And I'm so sorry for the way I've treated you. Goddess, she exhales, I've never been that scared in my life. I never thought that I would ever have to, she begins to hyperventilate. Mercedes and Dorothea both take her hands as the doctor comforts, it's okay. We're all here, now. Money, I promise that Edelgard and the professor are going to protect you. The girl begins to slow her breathing as Mercedes continues, hey, would you like to share a room with me for the time being? I imagine you don't want to be alone. Monica quietly nods as she calms down. Mercedes apologizes, I'm sorry, I wish I could protect you better. Byleth stares at the trio of women as they solemnly sit together. I'm a professor. I teach, she says. Dorothea looks at her, I don't follow. If you want to be stronger. I know none of you want to get involved with conventional weapons, but in the other world, you two were adept at magic, Byleth explains. I think Monica might be good at it, too. Just from looking at her. You want to teach us magic? Mercedes asks, eyes wide. Oh dear, that's sudden. Dorothea tightens her fist, you can really teach us how to fight? How to help the others? Yes. Both of you were talented at all sorts of magics, both healing and offensive. Dorothea will have to work at faith magic a little more before she can start unlocking her potential, but the talent is there. Faith magic, the songstress raises her eyebrow. I'll explain later, Byleth says. I'll do it, Mercedes resolutely nods. If it means getting closer to the goddess and helping the people I care about, then I want to learn. I'm in, too, Dorothea echoes. I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines. I'll do it, Monica quietly mumbles. The other three women look at her. Mercedes gently rubs the redhead's forearm, are you sure? I don't know if I'll ever fight in battles, she shakes her head, but I want to protect myself. And I want to protect you and Miss Hresvelg if I ever have to. Merci, I never want to be that scared again, and I want to be able to protect you, too. Very well, Byleth nods. I'll teach Dorothea and Mercedes starting tomorrow morning. I'll give you a day to rest first, Monica. A commotion draws their attention outside the infirmary. A few revolutionaries rush past the room, and Flesh enters a few seconds later. There you are, she says. Edelgard and Shamir's crews are back. Sounds like things got pretty intense down in Karen. Byleth gives Monica and Mercedes a look. Will you two be alright? Mercedes smiles. We'll be fine now. Go see Edelgard. Chapter 38, Streets That Run Red. Dozens of revolutionary transport vehicles steer through the ravaged streets of Karen's city center. As they draw closer to City Hall, the clash between the Empire and the Knights becomes more populated and subsequently, more violent. Bodies and destroyed vehicles litter the roads. Some buildings are rubble, leaving ash to waft through the air as a result of the Knights' bombings. Damn it! Casper shouts as he glances out a viewing slit in the transport's chamber. If the Empire gets to City Hall before we do, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Calm yourself, Edelgard replies. We need to meet up with Shamir's people and work out a plan from there. I already have a strategy in mind. Petra looks at Edelgard. Will the Empire be that rash, given the many political hostages the Knights have been taking? Edelgard explains, the enforcers will be marginally less forceful than usual. In fact, that's likely the sole reason that the main building isn't already a smoking ruin. Still, they aren't above letting the hostages die if it means eradicating a few extra Knights. We're here, their driver barks. The vehicle comes to a sharp stop as Edelgard warns, everyone. This may be a three-way battle, but don't let your guard down. Both sides will be looking to kill us. Use the chaos to your advantage, don't let it overwhelm you. The back of the transport opens, and the Black Eagles pour out. Similar transports flood the streets with revolutionaries abounds, including the Golden Deer, Save Claude, Lysithea, and Hilda, and the Faerghus trio. City Hall is visible from less than a block away, and with it, Shamir's troop is holed up in a massive ring of vehicles, caught between a crossfire. The stoic mercenary takes pot shots at enforcers and knights on either side. Revolutionaries! Edelgard bellows. We must secure the entrance to the hall. But do not enter the facility. We must defend it from both factions while we determine how to rescue the hostages. Edelgard points her axe, charging towards the enforcers positioned furthest from City Hall. Her forces follow her as they sandwich the Imperials between the Knights and Shamir's troop. The Flame Emperor draws and deflects the primary oncoming fire with her shield, pushing into their ranks full force. The Imperial position starts to break as the revolutionaries fan out to envelope their legion. Certain Imperials rush for cover at the telltale sight of orange flares of energy. Ingrid and Sylvain cutting through small swathes of enforcers in a tag team with their relics. Several Imperials fall in quick succession behind Edelgard. The Flame Emperor turns to see Petra covering her flank. The assassin gives her a quick nod, then returns to slicing through enforcers at an unparalleled rate. Casper and Raphael once again find themselves in a pair, smashing through enforcers with their hammer and gauntlets. The boisterous duo charge towards the flank of enforcers caught between Edelgard and Shamir's troop. Casper knocks an enforcer to the side with a mighty swing. Raphael simply stomps over that enforcer, never losing momentum as he sprints into a trio of Imperials with hollow shields drawn. He crashes into them, knocking the enemies on their backs. As they struggle to their feet, he picks one up by the collar and headbutts him, managing to crack the enforcer's helmet. Another repositions his hollow shield as Raphael clashes into him with his gauntlets. Ripples of energy spread through the shield with each pound from the grappler's fists. The hue of the shield starts to fade as Raphael starts to burn out the device. The third and final enforcer, meanwhile, draws a blood-stained vibroblade from the ground and flanks the unsuspecting Raphael. The grappler turns out the sound of crunching bone and armor. Casper stands above the bloody remains of the flanking enforcer with a wide grin and a smeared hammer. Thanks, buddy. Raphael smiles with a thumbs up. The grappler turns his attention back towards the enforcer with the hollow shield. He slams both fists into the device at once, burning it out in a flash of blue and white. Raphael chuckles as he picks up the enforcer with both arms. Don't, the Imperial begins to beg. but Raphael throws him in the direction of Shamir's troop. A vibroblade cuts through the enforcer before he lands, like a strike of lightning. Catherine and several other mercenaries flood out from behind cover with the Imperial flank broken. The rambunctious blonde cheers as she joins the fray, chasing away the current legion of enforcers. "I'm glad you showed up," she forcefully pats Edelgard on the back. "We needed to ensure your support, and any opportunity to remove the Knights of Syros is welcome," Edelgard answers. "Don't get cold with me now," Catherine teases. "We still have to take care of the rest of these clowns. We had best hurry and eliminate the knights at the entrance. The Empire will regroup and return within mere moments." The revolutionaries focus their forces on City Hall. Some knights stand their ground, and others flee inside the building to bolster their internal defenses. Edelgard and Catherine lead the charge on the ones remaining outside, with Shamir staying behind the cover of her barricade of demolished vehicles to snipe opponents from afar. It takes less than a minute for their troops to stain the entryway steps with the blood of the knights. Catherine pulls her sword from the final enemy as Shamir catches up with her. Edelgard faces them both and compliments, "You held your position well, in spite of the overwhelming odds." "It's good you arrived when you did," Shamir coolly replies. "We need to figure out how to get to those hostages without alarming the knights inside." Catherine frowns. "Normally I'd charge right in, but I hate to think what they'd do to my father if we did that." "And just who is your father?" Edelgard asks. Catherine and Shamir exchange a look before the swordswoman answers, "Count Karen." "So, we're saving someone who may potentially be our enemy?" Then again, Edelgard scratches her chin. This might be the perfect opportunity to convince him to defect. "If we save him, that is." Shamir looks at Catherine. "It wouldn't hurt to at least try to convince him." "Easier said than done," Catherine sighs. "That man is as stubborn as a mule and twice the ass. But this is an extreme situation, and he's never ungrateful." "We can work that out later," Edelgard nods. "For now, we need a plan to get inside before the Imperials return. First, we should rely on someone stealthy enough to sneak in." "I can get in there," a young voice replies. "Cyril, no," Shamir shakes her head. "You don't have the experience for this sort of thing." "Maybe not," Cyril puffs his chest out, "but I'm a lot more subtle than everyone else." Shamir huffs, "I'm a trained assassin. I can get in far easier than you." "That's true, but everyone needs you out here to lead our team," Cyril argues. "He has a point," Catherine adds. "Don't encourage him," Shamir sighs. "Perhaps it's for the best," Edelgard piles on. "This boy seems to have a knack for rarely being noticed, and we'll need the bulk of our forces here for when the Empire returns with reinforcements." Shamir glares at the three of them before relenting. "Fine. Just come back alive, or I'm taking it out of your pay." "Don't worry, Shamir," Catherine smiles. "I'll rush in to help as soon as prisoners start escaping the building." "I'll hold you to that," the sniper grumbles. The roar of several engine motors calls their attention. "The Empire is already upon us," Edelgard states. "Cyril, it's now or never." "Right," he nods before dashing off. Dozens of armored transports line the street adjacent to City Hall, crowding around each other. A deluge of enforcers pour out, armed to the teeth. Edelgard swings her shield up to protect herself from onsetting fire as Shamir tucks herself behind a wall. Revolutionaries crowd behind buildings, assorted cars, and their own transports for cover. Edelgard turns to Shamir, "We need to take care of some of that gunfire so we can set up a perimeter around the entrance." On it, Shamir pokes her rifle out from the wall. With a loud gunshot, an armed enforcer falls. In the meantime, Edelgard marches towards the Imperial line, shield up. As she gets close, enforcers start rushing her. With their line splitting, Edelgard sprints forward, knocking through the oncoming onslaught and slamming one of the Imperial gunmen into the side of a transport. He leaves behind a red smear on the side of the vehicle as his body falls to the ground. The Imperials regroup around her, only for some charging revolutionaries to once again disrupt the line. More and more gunmen fall as Shamir picks them off, with Ignatz joining the task from his own position behind a transport. Revolutionaries group up, forming a wall in the road between the building and the enforcers. Edelgard charges into the fray, separating arms and torsos with her vibro axe. A second axe cleaves down into one enforcer attempting to flank her. She turns to see a pillar of a man standing stoically above the body. "Didu," she greets. "How are you faring?" "I can fight, if that is what you mean," he grimly nods. "But the carnage reminds me far too much of the tragedy. Still, I can endure anything so long as it's to avenge Duskur and the boy who gave his life for mine." "Just don't do anything reckless," she says. "You owe it to them all to live." "Understood." The battle rages on. Bodies pile in the streets, and everyone's boots are caked in viscous blood. Catherine cuts down stray enforcers attempting to penetrate the entrance to City Hall. She hears faint whimpering echo from the side of the building, a few feet away from the entrance. Tracing the source, she sees a woman in a torn business dress stumble out of a broken window. She rushes to her aid. "Is there anyone behind you?" the swordswoman asks. "Why yes," the woman coughs. "Some Almiran boy has been freeing hostages. There should be others out soon." "Where's the boy? How is he?" Catherine grabs her shoulders. "I lost sight of him." Two bruised men in blood-stained suits interrupt the conversation as they tumble out of the window. They barely have time to get their bearings before Catherine presses them. "You two. Do you know what happened to the young man freeing hostages?" One of the men shakes his head. "He cut me free, directed me to this window, and left." "And what of Count Karen?" she asks in a panic. "Did the knights do anything to him?" "As far as I'm aware," the other man responds, "he's still being held in the panic chamber." "Great. I'll go look for them," Catherine angrily smirks, running off. "Don't you want to know where that is?" the man shouts. "I already know," she hollers back. Two guards shout in surprise as Catherine slips through the door to the sublevel. Before they can properly react, her vibro sword slices through them. She sprints down a hallway, arriving at a set of double doors. She takes a breath and kicks the doors in. She walks into an entryway looking out into the main panic chamber. A foot-thick wall of bulletproof glass separates her from the central area. She sees her father zip-tied to a chair. Beside him is a large screen showing various security feeds of the building. In the center of the room, Cyril stands off against the enormous man who is clearly the leader of the Knights' attack. "Cassandra!" Karen shouts, his voice sounding over a speaker connected to Catherine's side of the room. "What in Nemesis name are you doing here?" Gustav glances at Catherine. "So, the boy brought back up, after all. Most unfortunate that you should have to see me make an example out of him. Why are you doing this?" Catherine shouts at Gustav through the glass. "I do not take joy in striking down one so young, but the goddess demands death as penance from those who resist her goodwill." "Cyril," she shouts. "Get out of there." "Not until I stop him," he retorts. "Besides, there's nowhere else for me to go. I have to do this." Gustav nods. "You are brave, boy. I shall make your death an honorable one. You have my word." Catherine throws herself against the glass, to no avail. Even her sword only leaves superficial mars against the wall. Gustav tightly grasps a vibro axe in one hand, a hollow shield in the other. Cyril aims his pistol at the knight, opening fire. The shield deflects the shots, prompting Cyril to draw his vibro hand axe. He shakily clings to it, pointing the weapon towards his opponent. "Cyril, you can't beat him like that," Catherine yells. "Find a way out of there." He ignores her, taking a stance. Gustav simply tuts as he marches towards Cyril. The knight readies a swing but screams out in pain as his attack is interrupted. A blade juts from his chest, staining his armor in blood. He looks down to the weapon, fear in his wide eyes. The point of a sword, not a vibroblade but rather both medieval and alien at once, protrudes from his heart. Gustav slumps to the ground in a loud crash. "Aenet. I am so sorry I couldn't." Both Catherine and Cyril gawk at the figure above his body. And that's that. Next time, don't threaten Imperial civilians. Shay glares at the lifeless body. "You're with the Empire?" Cyril asks. "Yeah," Shay nods, "but I." "Then you're my enemy." Cyril charges for the purple-haired swordsman. "Cyril, stop. Catherine bangs on the glass. Stop this, kid. Shay shouts. I don't wanna hurt you. Cyril ignores him, swinging wildly. Shay dodges every strike, casually leaping back. You can't beat me, especially not one-on-one, the Imperial declares. Dodge this. Cyril shouts, drawing his pistol once again. He opens fire. Despite Shay's initial panic, his body flows out of the way of the bullet. Be more careful, an inner voice chides. Yeah. Thanks, Arvel. Shay dashes towards Cyril, weapon in hand. Cyril attempts to fire again, but the gun simply clicks with a jam. He glances up one final time as a sword slashes through his torso. Cyril! Catherine screams. It didn't have to be that way, kid, Shay murmurs as he runs off, managing to disappear despite their environment. As Cyril stumbles to the ground, the swordswoman grits her teeth and swings her blade into the glass again. Through sheer rage and adrenaline, her strength shatters the wall before her, and she rushes into the room. She drops to her knees by Cyril as he speaks. I am sorry, Catherine. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Don't be, she cradles him. She holds back sobs as she comforts him. You were great today. His body goes slack while she holds him. She lets out repeated screams and starts hacking apart desks and computers. Cassandra! Karen shouts. Stop. She glares at him with teary eyes. What do you care? Mercenaries mean nothing to you. Cassandra! We cannot stay here. Please, free me, and we can discuss this later, Karen calmly replies. The doors to the entrance open. The battle outside is winding down as Edelgard and Shamir turn to the entrance expectantly. Karen walks out, along with Catherine carrying Cyril's body. Shamir's jaw tightens, but otherwise she doesn't emote. Edelgard approaches them. I'm sorry, she says. I promise that his death won't be in vain. It wasn't, Catherine grimaces. And I'm going to kill the bastard who did this myself. You mean one of the knights escaped? Edelgard questions. No, the swordswoman shakes her head. It was some snot-nosed Imperial brat. Somehow, he cut his way through the reinforced walls and managed to kill the knight's leader in a surprise attack. Shamir paces up, staring at Cyril's body. Catherine chokes. Shamir, I'm sorry. I wasn't strong enough. I couldn't. The sniper says no words. She simply walks away in a quiet fume. Edelgard sighs. I know today was hard, but you did good work. Now, to deal with our new guest. She turns to Karen. I hope you know how to show proper gratitude, especially after what your daughter just suffered for your sake. Chapter 39, Truth of the Saints. Byleth squeezes her eyes shut. Her hands ball into fists while Edelgard sighs from her desk. I should have been there, Byleth seethes. You were busy rescuing Monica. You did nothing wrong, Edelgard sighs. The fault was mine. I should have sent in someone after him. In spite of his size, Didu is surprisingly stealthy. He could have protected Cyril. Even if I joined the battle late, I might have made it on time to do something, Byleth sulks. Byleth, you and I know full well the risks of this war, and that we cannot save everyone. Byleth shakes her head. I didn't get this strong to let the people I care about die. What else is this power good for? It's what I was born to do. Byleth, you are worth more than your power. And please don't take this the wrong way, but I've never even seen you talk to Cyril. Yet, you're taking this surprisingly personally, Edelgard furrows her brow. I knew Cyril from the other world. He was just a kid who put a lot of trust into the people he cared about. Speaking of which, Byleth sighs, how are Shamir and Catherine? About as you'd expect, Edelgard folds her arms. Catherine's been in a state since his death. Shamir has been quietly brooding as she works. Byleth remains silent for a bit, then, I think I know something she could use. Catherine, I mean. She stands up, I should be back sometime after midnight. Wait, Edelgard stands as well, what do you mean? You're just going to go out on some other mission. Don't worry. It'll benefit our cause. Today's been a very long day, Edelgard says. Can't you just retrieve whatever it is later? It'll be easier if I do this now, Byleth justifies. I just need those coordinates Yuri gave you from a couple weeks ago. A light nighttime drizzles patters the guards of Fodlan's Locket. Two of these guards watch over a side entrance to the fortress. One of them groans and stretches, and the other yawns. Their stupor quickly turns to alarm as two hooded figures approach them, one tall and one short. "Halt," one of the guards shouts. "Identify yourself." Both of the figures raise their hands as they slowly walk up. The taller one speaks with a masculine voice, "We mean you no harm. I have come seeking shelter along with my daughter." A guard retorts, "And you just happened to make it all the way to this fortress? What do you want? Why do you need shelter?" "It is the Knights of Syros," the man states. "They have been pursuing us for quite some time, but just recently they have tripled their efforts to hunt us down. Please, we need your help. We know Geralt is in your company. He can aid us." The guards exchange anxious looks as the shorter figure pleads with a feminine voice, "You must help us. Geralt knows us, and we are both weary and frightened. If we bring you in," one of the guards explains, "you're going to be monitored at all times. If Geralt really does know you, we can go from there. Otherwise, don't expect to make it out of this facility." "Welp," Claude tilts his head, "at least you two look related. It helps sell your story. How the hell did you find this place?" Edelgard glowers at the duo. The green-haired man and his daughter sit in a chamber surrounded by guards. The older man sighs, "My daughter and I have some experience fleeing from the Empire. We know how to hide, how to run, and how to find others in a similar predicament. We also recognized Geralt from your broadcast." "That only makes you sound more suspicious," Claude scratches his chin. "I am well aware of that," the man says. "That is why I am eager for Geralt to clear this up. You said the knights were after you? What do they want?" Edelgard interrogates. "That is..." "Wait," she cuts him off. "I want to hear it from your daughter." The pair exchange looks, and the older man nods. The girl begins, "My name is Flayn, and my father is Seath. We have been traveling the world, avoiding both the Knights and the Empire. However, this war has caused the Knights to search for us with more vigor than ever. They seek to weaponize our blood. We believe they think it will give them an advantage in the war." "And what's so special about your blood?" Claude asks. "Do you have some sort of crest?" The door to the chamber slides open. In walks Geralt and Eloise. Geralt huffs, "Goddess, it's too late for Geralt." Flayn shouts. The mercenary shakes his head, "I need more to drink." Eloise turns to Geralt, "Oh, do you know these people, Captain?" "Yeah, it's a long and bizarre story." Edelgard sighs, "Well, it seems the three of you have a lot to share with us. You can start with how you know each other." Geralt rubs his temples, "We met about 300 years ago. It was in the very beginning of my mercenary days." 300 years, Edelgard turns to the father and daughter with wide eyes. "Yes," Seath nods. "That is a bit difficult to explain." "You're Nabateans," Claude asserts. Seath and Flayn stare at him, "If you know what we are, that will make this somewhat easier." Edelgard says, "I didn't think there were any of your kind left." Seath begins, "We may very well be the last two. Over 1,000 years ago, a war broke out between Nemesis and Fodlan. The so-called God Emperor and his elites used the relics made from the bones of our kin. In the days of that war, we were heralded as saints, but Syros was unable to overcome her enemy. My daughter and I have been on the run ever since. We have taken countless aliases, masqueraded as siblings and cousins, even hid away in caves when necessary. For that millennium, the two of us have carefully studied the developing sciences of our ancient enemy in the hopes that their genetic experiments held the key to resurrecting our race." "That's where I come in," Geralt interrupts. 3 centuries ago, I was green. Mercenary troops were a lot harder to manage in those days, and I had gotten my small company killed in a disastrous raid. Seath found me bleeding out. His experiments saved my life. They also ensured that I was faster, stronger, and I could, how should I put this, think better. Turns out, that meant I aged a lot slower, too. You experimented on him. Edelgard scowls at Seath. Make no mistake, Seath defends. It was not the same as the wretched experiments the Empire conducts in the shadows. I merely gave him a small sample of genetic material. A transfusion of a bit of blood from one of our kind. Claude interjects, and this blood was what you were going to use to resurrect your race. Yes, Seath shamefully nods. Our goddess has forbidden the resurrection of life, deeming it unnatural. But given Nemesis' terrible grip on our world, we decided that something must be done to stop him. We were a strong and proud race of dragon shifters. Together, we might have stood a chance at defeating the Empire. Claude presses, did you succeed? In bringing anyone back, I mean. We did not set out to resurrect any specific individuals, Flame responds. Merely to resuscitate our race. Our one and only breakthrough occurred less than 50 years ago. Though, the woman who was born as a result of that experiment could not transform, and she was rather sickly. Citrai, Gerald sighs. Alois turns with wide eyes, Captain, I had no idea that was who she was. It didn't matter, Gerald answers. Who's Citrai? Claude asks. Edelgard, sensing the connection, interposes, she was your late wife, wasn't she? Gerald nods, yeah. Sometime after Seath and Flame created her, they hired me to watch over her. Citrai wanted to see the world, and they wanted me around to ensure she had a bodyguard whenever she was out. It was a happy reunion of sorts since I hadn't seen them in over 2 centuries. One thing led to another, and well, I thought for a short while that I might have an excuse to leave the mercenary life behind. Flame clasps her hands together, Geralt, I am still so very, very sorry for how things turned out. But please, do not feel guilt over this. She was very happy with the few years she got to spend with you. Truth be told, Seath concurs, you helped her find meaning in her life. She felt like a failure, given that she was not robust like the rest of our kind. I appreciate it, Gerald scratches his beard. Either way, there's no changing what's been done. Claude huffs, that's a very moving story and all, but what does this have to do with what the Knights are currently planning? Seath explains, as we said before, the Knights want our blood, since we are not human. They view us as the key to their rule. They think they serve the goddess. But to exploit us as they are, Flame finishes, they are no better than the Agarthans. Edelgard nods, thus, you need protection from them. We are not going to be a burden upon you, Flame puffs her chest out. Indeed, we have a millennium of combat experience, as well as knowledge of their leader, Seath explains. Edelgard gawks at him, you know who's leading the Knights? Yes, Seath affirms. Their Lord of Knights, as they call him, is Lonato, leader of the Gaspard district. That explains how they can afford so many resources, Claude notes. If you defeat him, Seath explains, you will not only remove the Knights as a threat, but control over Gaspard territory will fall to you. Gaspard, Claude ponders. Well, it sounds like a plan. Edelgard assents, agreed. An attack mounted from nearby Ro territory will likely be our winning strategy. She pauses before looking at Seath. Someone I know mentioned that they were aware of 2 Nabatean scientists who conducted experiments with artificial life. Do you perchance know Byleth? She's been our expert on Nabatean history. Byleth. Gerald gasps. Yeah, Claude chuckles, the woman who's always hanging around Edelgard. You've almost certainly seen her around. No, actually, Gerald shakes his head, I haven't. Seath interrupts to answer Edelgard's question, no. The only Byleth of whom I was ever aware was Citrai's stillborn child. Edelgard stands in silence, mentally creating connections. Flame groans, oh, it was such a tragic event. It was made worse when those horrid Knights tracked us down and vandalized their shared grave not 2 days after their passing. They what? Gerald grimaces. Ah, yes, Seath bows his head. I'm sorry to say that the Knights of Ceros dug up Citrai's grave just after you left. You went missing, so we had no means by which to inform you. Gerald buries his face in the palm of his hand. Captain, Alois sighs. Gerald looks back up, Edelgard, take me with you when you conquer Gaspard. I want a front row seat when they go down. I osa try that much. An artificial Nabatean woman. A genetically modified father. Damn it, again with these secrets, Edelgard huffs. Edelgard. Geralt reasserts. Ah, yes, of course, she looks to him. You are more than welcome to participate in the invasion. But tell me first, would your last name happen to be Eisner? Yes, Geralt bunches his brow. How did you manage to figure that out? By putting the evidence together, she sighs. When the Ashen Empress is ready, we will begin the invasion of Gaspard territory. I want to ensure that both she and the Blade Breakers fight alongside me. There are many things which must be cleared up. Chapter 40, Before the Battle. Byleth enters the massive garage of Fodlan's Locket, case in hand. The area could have been more accurately described as a hangar based on its size, if not for the lack of aerial vehicles. Revolutionaries workshop different armed vehicles, fix up transports from the previous skirmish, and generally prepare their vehicles for the coming battle. She finds Catherine in a sweaty tank top working on the engine of a motorcycle. The blonde pinches her finger, swears, and throws a wrench. Catherine. Byleth calls. What? She huffs. I have something you'll find useful. The swordswoman glares at Byleth and glances at the case. Fine. Let's see what it is. Byleth opens the case and explains, it's called Thunderbrand. I retrieved it from an Imperial location last night. It's a bit of a long story, but this is called a relic. It will grant you extra power against the Empire, and only you can use it. Catherine stares at the strangely shaped blade. Really? You just went and attacked an Imperial facility all by she touches the blade. A flare of energy sweeps over her body as an unplaceable instinct courses through her muscles. What is this? It feels so powerful. I told you. It's a relic. The Empire made them as secret weapons, and only certain people from certain bloodlines can use them. I figured you should have this, all things considered. Byleth frowns. Yeah, thanks, Catherine nods. This'll come in handy when I'm cutting down Imperial scum for what they've done. Especially that little brat who... Well, you get the picture. Catherine. Yeah. Please be careful. I've seen what vengeance does to people, Byleth cautions. It can corrupt people with even the most noble intentions. Oh please, Catherine scoffs. It's not like I'm getting revenge on people who don't deserve it. I know, just, please don't be reckless. Hurting people won't make you stop hurting, and you might just put yourself in more danger. Catherine sighs, I'll keep that in mind. Anyway, thanks for the weapon. She goes back to working on her motorcycle. Taking the hint, Byleth quietly nods and meanders away. She paces through the hall and yawns. Getting back late, then getting up early to give Dorothea and Mercedes their magic lessons certainly wasn't good for my sleep schedule. Especially considering what I am. There you are. Edelgard's voice pulls her from her drowsy thoughts. Her torpor turns to alarm as she sees who's with the Flame Emperor. Geralt stands by her side as they stop Byleth in the halls. The old mercenary's eyes widen upon seeing Byleth. The professor, in turn, avoids eye contact with the man. Edelgard, hello. It seems you slept well last night, Byleth greets. I slept well enough. Better than you since I don't remember you coming to bed last night. Quite convenient, considering the guests who arrived, Edelgard says. Yes, I heard about them. Seath and Flayn, Byleth affirms. Correct. Thanks to their information, we're preparing an invasion of Gaspard territory as we speak. We will crush the Knights of Syros once and for all, Edelgard gestures with her fist. Gaspard. Byleth repeats, realizing the connection to Lonato. Edelgard continues, I mean to have the Ashen Empress and the Blade Breakers at my side when we strike. I find that it is only fitting, given what the Knights have done to both of them. Geralt turns to Edelgard, are you sure that's such a good idea? The demon or the Empress, or whatever you want to call them, puts my guys on edge. Byleth slouches as Edelgard frowns and responds, I assure you, the tales of the Ashen Empress are skewed horror stories. She is not the monster people make her out to be. I'm sure you'll realize this when you get the chance to know her. Regardless, allow me to introduce you to Byleth, my history expert. Right, Geralt stares at Byleth. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Byleth shakes his hand. Edelgard rolls her eyes. Sorry, Geralt reciprocates the handshake. You just look like someone I once knew. I see. The pair stand in a tense silence until Geralt coughs. Well, I should go check on my troop. Make sure they're doing okay for the upcoming battle. Of course, Byleth nods. The older man walks off, scratching the back of his head. Edelgard folds her arms and glares at Byleth. What? The Blunnet asks. Byleth. I'm not an idiot. When Seath and Flayn explained who they were, they already had an odd likeness to the two surviving Nabatean scientists you had previously mentioned. Then Geralt started detailing his own backstory in relation to them. I hope you realize that artificial Nabatean mothers who die in childbirth are not a common demographic. Particularly when that child is named Byleth Eisner. Byleth burns red as she panics. Edelgard, How long is this going to go on? Edelgard interrupts. I understand why you kept your identity a secret. But then you kept your contempt for your nickname, and the insecurities it brings, a secret. Now this? Perhaps I have no right to say this, given my own secrecies, but you need to tell me these things. He's your father, Byleth. Did you honestly expect to keep your relation to him hidden the entire time we were all together? It's bad enough you didn't say anything to me, but he thought you were dead. Perhaps it's better if he thinks as much. Byleth shakes her head. You can't possibly mean that, Edelgard scowls. You need to talk to him. In the other world, that man was the strongest person on the continent, save Cyros, for over 300 years. Then I come along, and he dies. Citrai died because of me, too, Byleth rants. I don't know why, but I'm just bad luck for them. They didn't die because of you. From the sound of it, Citrai always had medical complications that detracted from her life, and we both know that Geralt was assassinated by the Agarthans in the other world. You had nothing to do with it. But I wasn't strong enough to protect him. Even with my powers, Byleth retorts. So being separated from him will help him, somehow. Edelgard persists. You're a literal demigod. Not having you by his side only increases the risk of his demise. You can protect him better if you fight alongside him, not if you run away from him. I don't. Byleth, trust me, I know how you feel. Better than anyone. I lost my whole family, so reaching my hand out to anyone on a more personal level feels like an enormous risk. So, I'll give you the same advice Mercedes gave me when I was considering pushing you away. Are you going to leave the one you love to fend for themselves? Or are you going to do what you can to protect them? You aren't a coward who'd run from someone who needs your help. Byleth scrunches her brow as she exhales. I'm sorry. I just get so afraid of these battles sometimes. Not for me, but for the rest of you. It hurt so much when I lost him the first time. I never felt anything like that, and I don't want to go through it again. Edelgard embraces Byleth. I understand. And I'm not going to push you to reveal yourself to him right away, but after this battle, you two need to have a talk. Whether you need me with you, or you want to do it privately, it's up to you. Just remember that we're stronger when we're together, not when we're pushing each other away. All right, Byleth nods. Now, Edelgard continues, are there any other secrets you've been keeping from me? Yes, Byleth turns away, a bit shamefully. I met Dimitri in the other world. I see, Edelgard glowers. You're the one who killed him. The two had moved to Edelgard's office to continue their conversation. The Flame Emperor had quickly realized the personal nature of Byleth's information as the professor recalled the life of the Dimitri of a different history. Yes, Byleth sighs. The man he became wasn't like the boy you knew. In fact, you didn't even remember him in that world. Edelgard casts her gaze to the floor. The truth is, I can barely remember him even in this world. I only ever knew my step-brother as D. It wasn't until later that I learned his full name and our relation to the late governor of Faerghus. I guess that makes sense, Byleth adds. That information is more accessible in this world. I still can't believe someone so gentle could be filled with such hate, especially for me, Edelgard says. Vengeance has a terrible way of twisting good people. A person can be rightfully angry but take the wrong actions. Unfortunately, Dmitri focused his rage on the wrong people. That he was sick made matters worse. I wanted to help him, but between his rage, his psychosis, his paranoia, and his power, it would have cost too many lives. In the end, it was his life in exchange for all the lives he could have destroyed on his quest to learn the truth of himself, of the tragedy he suffered, and of the nature of the Church of Syros. I couldn't stand that, especially if you were going to be one of the victims he claimed on that route. I don't believe the blood of hundreds to be worth the well-being of one. You made a difficult call. I do the same all the time in either world. Edelgard takes Bylitha's hand. In spite of what everyone says about you, you have a very kind heart, even to have empathy for your opponents. That is why I need people like you to help me change the world. For those who have lost their lives, like Dmitri, and for those who yet live, like Geralt, we must continue to fight against the inhuman creatures who orchestrate such tragedies. A cool night breeze graces the balcony of Gaspard Tower. Annette's feet dangle off the ledge as she feels the chill wash over her face and through her hair, tied back into a practical bun. She fidgets with a crude homemade doll, frowning at its button eyes. She startles when a door slides open behind her. "So this is where you are," Ash says. The young man takes a seat next to Annette, dangling his legs next to hers. "I remember that doll," he smiles softly. "You had accidentally locked it in one of our old sheds. We were both so scared when we went looking for it," he chuckles. She faintly chuckles back at him. "Yeah, things were simpler then." "How are you feeling?" Ash asks. "I'm trying to cheer myself up, but it's been a struggle. I know my dad and I haven't always been on the best of terms, but to just lose him like that is..." She strokes her doll's hair. "I know what you mean," Ash responds. "I still think about Kristoff sometimes. It doesn't help that he died taking hostages. What am I supposed to make of that?" Annette huffs. Ash shakes his head. "Lonato says that we have to make sacrifices for the greater good. And most folks from city halls aren't good people. But it feels like we've been punishing sinners more and more indiscriminately lately. Whenever Dad came back from a mission, it was getting harder and harder for me to see any difference between him and the imperial propaganda they play on TV. They both rant about how they're righteous and that the other guy has to be wiped out. Are the civilians really so guilty that they need to be so severely punished by either side? Would the goddess really want this?" Ash sighs. "That's not an easy question to answer. Lonato says that they hate both the goddess and us. They believe everything that the Empire says, and so they'll either never repent or they'll only repent when they fear the goddess' wrath. It gets a bit hard to digest sometimes, what we do to them, I'll admit. But Lonato says that this war is our chance. If we destroy the Empire now, then the people who grow up in a generation or two will be faithful to the goddess, not some dead blasphemous emperor. I suppose," Annette huffs. "Sorry, I guess I'm just having a hard time finding myself in all of this." "Hey, I get it. No pressure," Ash smiles. "Losing a loved one is always a test of faith. But we're both still standing." "Yeah, I guess that's true," Annette grins. "Thanks, Ash. You always know just what to say. Anytime." The door to the balcony slides open again, and the pair hear a pastorly voice beckon. "Ah, you two children have bad habit of disappearing." The voice chuckles. "Well, I hate to break up such an important moment, but Sir's scouts have reported a potential threat. It would seem that the United Revolutionary Army is mobilizing against us." "What?" both Annette and Ash yell in unison. They turn to the monk who dons brown robes with red accents and trimmings. His long, dark hair sways as he shakes his head. "How do they know where we are?" Ash spouts. "It is unfortunate, but they have come across the secrets of our order. They plan on striking from Ro. But there is no need to fret, the goddess is on our side, and through her, we shall protect all our sheep," the monk reassures. "Sir is already organizing our brave knights. It would do him well if you both joined him." The pair stand and nod. The monk warmly smiles back at them. "Of course, Aelfric, Annette politely bows. We will serve the goddess and the Lord of Knights any way they see fit. Check the description for the links to the author.